Chapter 1509. Old Gu dug his ears once more to confirm that he hadn't heard wrongly. That was to say, Chu Feng wasn't nearby, otherwise, he would have no choice but to attack Chu Feng. "You've been possessed by Li Dahe, haven't you?" he questioned. Ever since he found out that he had been tricked by his big brother, he no longer revered Li Dahe. He always felt that Li Dahe was a black hole. "You're the one who's been possessed. I'm strong, so naturally I need more," Chu Feng corrected. Old Gu said with a dark expression, "You want 50,000 kilograms of mutant earth? Are you crazy? People can't be compared to each other. I need a huge amount to evolve again. Otherwise, how can I be unrivaled in the same realm? That's why I'm special." Old Gu looked at him unkindly through the screen. "Aren't you ashamed? Isn't it just a Heng King? Even if you're extraordinary, you just want to evolve into a celestial venerable. What do you need so much mutant earth for? Let me add that I'm a Heng King with 2 Dao fruits. I just killed a great celestial venerable, so I'm different from others. I need a lot this time." Old Gu really wanted to spit on his face. He had just become a great celestial venerable, yet Chu Feng had emphasized more than once that he had just killed a great celestial venerable. "How shameful!" Chu Feng said, "I'm too strong. Celestial venerable earth might not be effective against me. That's because I used a lot of it to advance to Heng King with 2 Dao fruit." Old Gu's face turned red and then green. "Can't you stop being cocky? I know you're strong, yet you keep emphasizing it. Who are you talking to? I've advanced by leaps and bounds, so I need a lot of superior earth. I'm about to kill my way into that realm, so I've prepared 3 portions of mutant earth for myself," said Old Gu. He had to redeem some face for himself. Otherwise, would he really be a weakling? He had broken through with great difficulty to become a great celestial venerable, so he wanted to show off a bit. But in the end, this hateful demon brat kept stabbing at his heart. Old Gu's lungs were hurting from holding it in. That was why he was putting on an arrogant stance. He wanted to let Chu Feng understand that his own clan was about to advance again. He was still suppressing him and surpassing Demon King Chu's realm. "Old Gu, take it easy. Your accumulation isn't deep enough, and your cooldown time isn't long enough. Something bad will happen. You have to be careful and don't act recklessly," Chu Feng said earnestly. Old Gu was so angry that his nose became crooked. "You're just a youth, yet you've advanced by leaps and bounds. Not only do you not say that you haven't accumulated enough, you're even advising others? Who are you mocking?" Old Gu's nose was no longer his nose and his eyes were no longer his eyes. He really didn't want to look at this devil anymore. However, he still endured it. He had to remind Chu Feng, because this problem was indeed incomparably serious. He said, "When you were talking about me, didn't you think about yourself?" Old Gu became serious and said, "The pollen road is too dangerous. If you don't accumulate enough experience, you'll die a miserable death even if you have 10,000 lives. I advise you to start seclusion now or go to the mortal world to experience the various forms of life. Don't evolve anymore, otherwise the outcome will be tragic." These weren't empty words, but words that came from the bottom of his heart. If one was careless, they would die a miserable death regardless of whether one was a heaven's pride or an ultimate talent. Since ancient times there had never been any accident. Those who evolved too quickly wouldn't have a good ending. The early stages of the pollen road were fine and smooth, but the death rate would skyrocket toward the later stages. There was no smooth road to speak of. There was no need to talk about the ordinary divine kings. As for the talented ones, those who were close to the celestial venerable realm, they were also quasi-celestial venerables. The success rate of these special divine kings was extremely low, less than 1 in 100. What if ordinary divine kings were included? The ratio was unimaginable. It was even more difficult to become a celestial venerable. If one wanted to advance further, the ratio would only be lower. Old Gu, don't talk about me. What about you? You rose up so quickly. Aren't you also alive and kicking? Chu Feng asked. How do you know I haven't experienced a death tribulation? Something almost happened to me in the celestial venerable realm. When I became a great celestial venerable, I even encountered a great spiritual tribulation and also encountered the calamity of decay, almost dying. I relied on my extraordinary methods and heaven-defying abilities. If it was someone else, I guarantee that their corpse would already be stinking. Even if they had 100 lives, it still wouldn't be enough. Old Gu warned seriously. There were elements of showing off and bragging, but most of it was still true. This process was extremely dangerous. Don't worry, you can do it. I will become even stronger. Chu Feng patted his chest and said. He really didn't regard Old Gu as an outsider, saying whatever he wanted to say. Old Gu was so angry he wanted to die. This damn child, did he know how to speak human language? Why did he want to give him a violent beating? Old Gu endured it. Then, he straightened his back again, recovering his arrogant attitude. He clasped his hands behind his back and said, You and I are different. Don't you know who I, Old Gu, am? Then, he spoke the truth in a sincere and heartfelt manner. There is a difference between the two of us. I've been buried in Een Manor for countless years in the state of the 9 netherworlds, hibernating from the prehistoric times to the present to reconstruct my body. It can be said that this is the best accumulation and incomparable accumulation. Endless years have passed, and I've been waiting in the darkness for the sake of blossoming resplendently in this era. Old Gu was very serious this time and didn't joke around. This was the truth. His accumulation was enough. How many years had passed since the prehistoric times to the present? He had always been waiting for the opportunity of this era and had experienced the baptism of countless years. Chu Feng also became serious and said, I know my own situation. Don't worry, there definitely won't be any problems. As long as there is soil at the great power level, I can guarantee my safety. What I need right now is time. This world is about to be finished, and there is no future to speak of. If I don't rise up now and think about accumulating, I will die even faster. Old Gu stared fixedly at him. This fellow came from the little Een realm, so how could he be so special? Didn't he need to accumulate? He was starting to doubt life and wanted to slice up Chu Feng to study him. He had the body of a youth and the Tao fruit of a dual eternal king. Now, he was shouting that he was going to advance soon? Chu Feng then said, Old Gu, do you have suitable pollen? Don't randomly evolve. If you really can't do it, I'll find a few plants of exceptional quality for you in the future. Old Gu's face twitched. He was still warning Chu Feng to be careful, but in the end, Chu Feng was lecturing him instead. Of course I do. I prepared them all back then, and they were especially ample. There were a few divine medicinal trees in the past that were all heaven-defying. I've stored them away and planted them in a certain secret realm. I took a look last time, and they were all still there. Some of the fruits on the medicinal trees are about to ripen, and as long as a large amount of strange soil is provided, the ripening time can be quickly shortened. The flowers and fruits of different ancient trees corresponded to different cultivation realms. Old Gu naturally didn't just prepare one type of contingency plan. He even had 3 other medicinal gardens, but this time some of the varieties had long since rotted. Even if the flower seeds grew again, some plants would be missing, but overall it was enough for his use. At this point, Old Gu was a bit doubtful. I took advantage of the prehistoric era when my big brother was still in power to prepare these rare varieties for myself. Some of them can be considered peerless, but where do you have pollen? Do you have divine medicinal trees? He warned Chu Feng that the choice of pollen was extremely important and couldn't be messed around. Ordinary pollen and ordinary fruits would affect one's upper limit of achievement. Chu Feng said, Don't worry, I found a prehistoric secret realm and saw a few ancient trees bearing flower buds. Because the medicinal properties are too strong, under normal circumstances, it might take a few years for the petals to bloom. But as long as there's mutant soil at the almighty level to accelerate the ripening, it won't take long. He really couldn't explain the 3 seeds at the moment, especially when they were talking through the internet. There was no way to explain in detail, and if the secret was leaked, the effects would be too terrifying. Although Old Goo was suspicious, he didn't ask in detail. This kind of thing wasn't suitable to investigate while using the communicator. Then, he said proudly, "Yes, I need 3 portions of mutant soil at the almighty level to accelerate the ripening of my divine ancient tree." This was very shocking. Normally, 1 portion of mutant soil at the almighty level was enough to nurture a great medicine of the same level. However, Old Goo added 3 additional portions, which meant that he needed 4 portions of mutant soil at the almighty level to evolve this time. The quality of his medicine was evident. Chu Feng looked at his expression and couldn't help but ask curiously, "How many portions of mutant soil at the almighty level is 100,000 kilograms equivalent to?" Old Goo wanted to spit at him. "I'm showing off like this and waiting for you to be astonished and dumbfounded. In the end, you're so indifferent and even want to stab me in the back?" Chu Feng saw through his state and immediately laughed awkwardly. "You're amazing. What kind of medicine did you prepare? What kind of rare ancient tree did you prepare?" "It's a medicinal tree that my big brother used in the past. Let me tell you, I've prepared all the sacred trees and immortal herbs needed for his pollen evolution." "You cheater!" Chu Feng curled his lips. Fortunately, Old Goo didn't hear it. Otherwise, he would definitely choke on his anger. Old Goo said, "Do you know how heavy a portion of mutant soil is? It varies from 1 or 200 kilograms to 2,000 kilograms. So, do you understand how ridiculous you are? 50,000 kilograms?" Chu Feng was dumbfounded and only came back to his senses after a while. "Then prepare 10 to 20 portions for me. In any case, the remaining ones are useless after you've advanced to the almighty level. Don't tell me you don't have any. With that cheater's personality, you must have prepared a huge pile back then. It must be as tall as a small mountain, right?" Old Goo really wanted to beat him to death. What cheater? It was too unpleasant to hear. Moreover, he had been tricked until he was crying and laughing foolishly. He was about to go crazy. "I can squeeze out 2 portions for you," Old Goo said after some thought. This was the result of his ample preparations back then. The value of this kind of thing was immeasurable. If he wanted to buy it, there was no way he wouldn't be able to. This kind of thing was as precious as their lives and definitely wouldn't be sold. "Old Goo, although you're very generous, it's just a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood for me. Do you have more?" Chu Feng sighed. Old Goo's righteousness indeed reached the clouds. Saying priceless wasn't enough to describe the value of almighty soil. It was truly a priceless treasure. It was too rare. However, his seed was a bottomless pit that couldn't be fed to its fullest. "I'll think of a way. Perhaps I can find more for you." "Right, where are you?" "I'll have someone send it over," Old Goo said. "Yuezhou," Chu Feng informed. He pondered for a bit. Old Goo had found 3 portions for him. In addition to the ones he had on hand and the 3 he had ordered in advance, it should be about enough. "Why did you run to Yuezhou?" Old Goo seriously suspected that this fellow was up to no good. "I ordered 3 portions of almighty soil and was waiting to pick them up," Chu Feng replied. "What's going on?" "To be more specific, I'm preparing to raid the lair of the 3 Yuan clan almighties," Chu Feng replied. Old Goo immediately became excited when he heard this. He threw down his wine cup and ran out while shouting, "Wait for me!" Chapter 15:10. Old Goo had arrived at lightning speed. He borrowed the teleportation domain of a certain giant city to arrive at Yu Province. Then, he tore through the air and arrived at the rendezvous point with Chu Feng. It's been a long time since I've raided a house. I really miss the prehistoric times. Conquering powerful enemies and going to their lair to exchange for treasures was one of life's greatest pleasures. Old Goo was shameless. His lips were red, his teeth were white, and his face was especially tender. He looked just like a pretty boy. I'm raiding a house to advance. What are you so excited about? Chu Feng was puzzled. You don't understand. This is a nostalgic state of mind, a type of emotion. I'm experiencing the passing of old good times. There's a sense of time changing and the vicissitudes of life. Old Goo was acting like a poet. Chu Feng wanted to give him a slap. You're sick. You miss the days when you nibbled on your brother. Follow me in the future and call me Brother Chu. I'll protect you in the future, said Chu Feng. Scram. I'll nibble on you? You're still asking me for almighty level treasured earth. You still have the face to boast shamelessly? Old Goo was quite sharp. Don't be anxious. This is an investment. My future is worth betting on. The one before you is Chu Zhongdi, the future supreme immortal emperor. Your fortune isn't bad to have met me in this life. Chu Feng's shameless attitude really made Old Goo want to beat him up. However, he thought about it and realized that this demon had just killed a great heavenly venerable. He might not be a match for him. As such, he could only endure with a dark expression. Here, 2 portions of almighty level mutant earth. Although he wanted to beat up Chu Feng, Old Goo was quite generous. He really brought 2 portions of incomparably rare mutant earth. A bluish gold color completely submerged the soil. A portion of it was revealed from the container and immediately, beams of light shot into the sky. Chu Feng quickly covered it up. Was this still soil? It was too shocking. It was even more mysterious than all kinds of treasures. One didn't need to look carefully to know that this was a priceless treasure. Comparatively speaking, when he killed Tai Wu, the soil he took from that place was much plainer. It was dark red in color and didn't reveal anything. Tai Wu was a peak character among the Empyreans. He had long been preparing to break through to the realm of almighty beings, but he had been accumulating all this time. Moreover, his mutant soil wasn't as mysterious and powerful as Old Goo's, so he still needed another 100 years to mature his scarlet almighty lotus. In the end, it was taken away by Chu Feng. However, a portion of this dark red soil was used up when Chu Feng advanced to the dual eternal domain. Fortunately, he still had a copy that he'd copied from his senior sister in the Imperial Martial Academy. That type of soil was black in color, and it seemed as if it was dug out from a swamp. However, the spirituality contained within it was extremely shocking. How is it? This type of blue gold earth is rarely seen in this world. My older brother used it before. Old Goo was immensely proud of himself. This time, Chu Feng couldn't help but nod his head in admiration. Then, Old Goo took out another portion. This was a pure white jade-like soil. It didn't have the brilliance of a rainbow that shot into the heavens, but it was also special. It automatically attracted the surrounding world essence, making its spirituality even richer. Old Goo said, "Do you see? This soil is even more amazing. In this world, it's hard to find 1 or 2 portions of it. It is said that this is dug out from the 4 extremes of the floating earth. When mixed with other mutant soils, it can increase the quality of all mutant soils." Chu Feng was amazed, deeply amazed. Was it that mystical? Finally, he stroked the pure white soil. He couldn't help but ask, "Do you think this is bone ash?" Old Goo's lips twitched and black veins popped out on his face. "Do you even know how to converse? How did such a good thing taste so different in your mouth?" However, he couldn't help but think about it. It really might be true. During the Soul River War, there were all sorts of roars and all sorts of secrets that spread out. Now, many people knew that the 4 extremes of the floating earth were possibly the crematorium of invincible life forms. They used the yin-yang dual firewood, the great void flame, and the ancient cosmic flame to burn it. I also kept a portion for myself. Do I still need it? Old Goo felt his stomach ache. No need, give it to me. I don't mind. Chu Feng didn't care about the origin of this soil. It was fine as long as it could evolve. Increasing his strength was the most important thing right now. Stand to the side. I can only give you these 2 portions. Chu Feng said, Didn't you say that you could find more? I'll give it a try. Old Goo walked to the side and used his communicator to contact someone. It was actually the Emperor's supporting organization. Now, he could mobilize them. In the end, it was just as Old Goo had expected. The Emperor's supporting organization was able to prepare nearly 2 portions for him. Not bad. Have you taken over that underground organization? Chu Feng was surprised. What do you mean take over? That was originally mine. Old Goo crossed his hands behind his back and had a very aloof appearance. That can't be right. In the past, you were very afraid of them. You didn't even dare to contact them, thinking that they might have betrayed you. At this point, Chu Feng suddenly understood. Because Li Su is still alive, there's no need for you to purge the organization. They'll be very obedient now and won't plot against you for the time being. Chu Feng hit the nail on the head and pointed out the essence of the matter. Although Old Goo didn't want to admit it, this was the reality. It was still his big brother's light that illuminated the world. Now, no one would dare to touch him. The Emperor's supporting organization was very efficient. It only took them half a day to gather everything and deliver it to the designated location. As expected, it was nearly 2 portions of almighty-grade mutant soil. It had to be said that the organization was very powerful and unfathomable. They also had a premonition that the world was going to change. They had already organized the few quasi-celestial venerables who had hopes of becoming almighty to go into seclusion. Otherwise, there would be more mutant soil. Chu Feng said, This is close to 4 portions. In addition to my half, that's 5.5 portions. Old Goo said, It's completely enough. Let me tell you, according to the records, 3 portions of almighty-grade soil is enough to make any medicinal tree mature. If you're worried, you can add another portion. Then, it'll be foolproof. Is it enough? That tree of mine is a big pit. I always feel that it's not enough. Chu Feng was doubtful. He had this kind of awareness. 3 is a magical number. Everything is related to it. 3 gives birth to all things. From ancient times until now, 3 portions of top-notch mutant soil is enough for all great divine medicines. Old Goo patted his chest and told Chu Feng that the mutant soil he was looking for Chu Feng was of superb quality. It was incomparable. Any medicinal plant would bloom with immortal buds and the fragrance of flowers would spread for 10 li. Right, it's not like you're going to advance into the almighty realm. It's enough. Do you want to defy the heavens? It's too extravagant for you to want so much almighty-grade mutant soil. Old Goo's eyes were unkind. He believed that Chu Feng would definitely waste it. Don't worry, not a single grain of soil will be wasted. Just watch and see. Then, he pondered for a while and felt that it wasn't safe. There was too little soil. However, those 3 Yuan clan old fellows were nailed to their homes and wouldn't move. Don't force me to go and rob them. Chu Feng ground his teeth. Then, he began to think of external help. After going through every household, he suddenly thought of a certain strange dragon, the scapegoat Longdu. Old Goo, ask the Emperor's supporting organization to find me someone. That person's situation is similar to yours, perhaps even more evil. It's suspected that he's reincarnated 3 times. God knows how many rare treasures from his past life are buried there. Old Goo fumed. How am I evil? It had to be said that the Emperor's supporting organization was truly heaven-defying. It was worthy of being a colossus of the underground world. No one knew the realm of its leader. Their system was enormous, and there were many experts walking in the dark. Soon, news arrived. The strange dragon wasn't a contented lord. It had traded with the underground world several times, and no one knew where it had obtained the treasures. It often bartered and found people to help it exchange for what it needed in the underground market. Old Goose said, "We couldn't find this strange dragon. Its whereabouts are secretive, and its self-defense ability is too strong. There's no way to find it. However, we have his communication method. He'll occasionally turn it on so we can contact him." "Alright, I'll contact him." Chu Feng tried many times. Finally, the next day, he got in touch. The other party turned on his communicator. "Who is it?" "It's me," Chu Feng greeted intimately. The strange dragon was nibbling on a sparkling red coral-like divine fruit. Its mouth was full of fragrance and multicolored light. It had been eating nourishment every day in order to become stronger and evolve to perfection. Now it had spat out a mouthful of fruit juice. Goosebumps rose all over its body. Who the hell was this? It was too mushy. "Who are you?" he asked. "Long time no see. Have you forgotten me?" "I'm your brother Duh. Chu Feng said with a deadpan expression. After Long Du heard this, he was in a bad mood. His emotions were in turmoil. He shouted, "Which grandson?" He only knew one person called Duh in this life. He often clenched his teeth and wanted nothing more than to drag G-Dade over and beat him to a pulp. Not to mention his nose, even his eyes and ears were spewing white smoke. He was furious. This damned G-Dade had made him a scapegoat time and time again. Now, he even dared to contact him and call himself Brother Duh. Was this a provocation, or was he courting death? "G-Dade, come over if you have the gut. I'll kill you with one hand," Long Du shouted. He was truly agitated and angry. Old Gu rolled his eyes at Chu Feng. What kind of outrageous things had you done to make him so emotional? He wanted nothing more than to jump over and cut him up. There's a little misunderstanding, but we're brothers. I want to buy some mutant soil from you. Will you sell it? I'll kill you, and you still dare to ask for mutant soil from me." Long Du was crazily munching on the divine fruit. He first stopped himself from spitting it out. He was afraid that he would explode mentally and couldn't help but want to roar Chu Feng to death. The strange dragon felt that he had to calm this bastard down. He would find his whereabouts and torment him. Last time, he had finally met this G-Dade in the three-way battlefield. It was Chowda, but in the end, he was countered and threatened. He had no choice but to compromise. This time, he would definitely flip out. "You scoundrel, dog thing, ungrateful, repaying kindness with enmity," Long Du cursed. Finally, as if he had vented his anger, he asked, "You're about to advance, are you an Empyrean?" "Yes, it's like this. I want 4 or 5 portions of Celestial Master soil. I can trade with you. After all, we're brothers. I guarantee you won't lose out and you'll make a big profit. There were some misunderstandings in the past, but we can just let bygones be bygones. Besides, you tricked me first. In the end, I only succeeded in counterattacking." Beside him, Old Gu was surprised. "Didn't you want Almighty Master soil? Why did you change it to Celestial Master soil?" Chu Feng endured Long Du's roars. Then, they finally reached an agreement. He set up a location with Long Du and prepared to pick up the goods. "What's wrong with you? You only want Celestial Master soil, but you deliberately tricked me?" Old Gu's eyes were unkind. Chu Feng shook his head and said, "No, I want Almighty Master soil. But that dragon wants to cause trouble and trick me. I'm going to try tricking him later." "What's going on?" Old Gu was puzzled. "If you don't believe me, just wait and see. That dragon will definitely find 2 or 3 Almighty Master helpers to go to the agreed location to stop me." Chu Feng felt that the strange dragon was definitely capable of doing such a thing. His heart was truly evil. Moreover, the strange dragon had the strength to summon Almighty Master powerhouses. Back then, Long Du had been made a scapegoat and was wanted by the human sovereign Mo clan. In the end, He couldn't take it any more and found an old almighty master friend from his previous life to attack the Mo clan. He was too bold. Chu Feng believed that the strange dragon had the strength and was also black-hearted. This time, it most likely wanted to deal with him. I won't go for now. I'll leave him hanging. I'll try advancing first. If I can immediately obtain double celestial master fruit, I'll keep the appointment and deal with and rob the strange dragon. Chu Feng wanted to plant medicine and let the seeds germinate. He wanted to see if more than 5 portions of almighty master soil was enough. Perhaps he could succeed. Chapter 1511. Old Gu, I'm going to evolve. I'm going to plant some medicine. Protect me. Chu Feng was incomparably serious. He really couldn't wait any longer. It would be more effective to increase his strength first and then look for resources later. Only when he was powerful enough to crush his enemies could he find more mutant soil and climb to a higher realm of evolution. Chu Feng had already made up his mind. He would ask his enemies for the resources he needed, including the divine soil. He wouldn't feel any psychological burden if he paid them a visit. You're planting medicine to accelerate the ripening? But where is the divine medicinal tree? The old man was bewildered. He had always suspected that Chu Feng didn't have any roots. That medicinal tree evolution? It wasn't something a prehistoric old man like him could prepare in advance. Now, he was finally about to see a corner of the truth. Let's go. This place won't do. We need to find a place with vigorous ancestral veins and concentrated spiritual energy from several provinces. We can still borrow some power in case we don't have enough mutant soil. Chu Feng led the way in front. They searched through Yu Province, Ming Province, Hui Province, Qing Province, and Zhuo Province in search of the true ancestral lair and the legendary land of fortune. It wasn't good to disturb a territory with an owner, but he was a heavenly master in the field of domains. Nothing could hide from him regarding the veins of the earth. In the end, Chu Feng chose a famed mountain. The old man's expression changed immediately. He drew in a breath of cold air and said, "Wait a moment, we can't enter this place. This is one of the top 1,000 famed mountains in the Yang realm. Even if it isn't in the top 100, it's still strange. There might be corpses from billions of years ago and old monsters from several epochs. It's possible that they haven't even breathed their last." Chu Feng said, "Is that so? You've been fooled. This place has already become an ownerless land. I can sense the rich vitality of the veins of the earth, but there's no aura of the living." Recently, Chu Feng had experienced all kinds of strange things. He had even personally visited a terrifying place like the Soul River and gained a deep understanding of domains. He had already become a true heavenly master and was no longer close to it. Instead, he had completely stepped into this unfathomable domain. Old Gu sucked in a breath of cold air. No matter what was said or done, this place was still a famous mountain in the past. Generally speaking, no one would dare to explore this place without the cooperation of a few powerhouses. It was to the extent that some famed mountains looked unremarkable and had been in decline for countless years. If something went wrong, even ultimate existences would suffer a great loss inside. "Don't overreach yourself," Old Gu reminded. He always felt that this demon, Chu Feng, had mobilized too many people. It was a bit ridiculous. Just what kind of great medicine was he trying to speed up? Moreover, was it really a good idea to transplant a medicinal tree like this before evolution? He was full of questions. He speculated that maybe Chu Feng had a space treasure in the small world, and the herb tree was planted in it, so it could be safely moved to the famous mountain. This mountain was covered in dust, truly unremarkable. However, it was extremely ancient, possessing a great reputation in the past. Not many creatures dared to approach it. Of course, this famed mountain was more active in the last great era. After this great era, there was almost no activity. It was precisely because of this that it had fallen to around the 1,000th rank. "No, you still can't go. It's too dangerous. Old Goo stopped him. However, no matter how much he advised, Chu Feng walked down this dark path and insisted on going. Of course, he also requested that Old Goo not approach. Even though he was quite confident, he was still scared that something unexpected would happen. He prepared a transport domain for Old Goo on a distant mountaintop so that he could escape at any time. Hung Long. Chu Feng opened up the belly of the mountain, walked through the cracks between the rocks, and entered. Inside, corpses were everywhere, but they were all rotten and would shatter with just a slight touch. Moreover, there was dust everywhere, and large amounts of smoke and dust would be stirred up when one stepped on it. It really has withered away. Did all the creatures here die? Old Goo was shocked. It wasn't that no one dared to have designs on this place during all these years, but they all shrunk back in the end. That was because during the ancient era, this place had erupted with killing intent, killing a powerful intruder. It was clear that the corpses here weren't the original owner and were left behind through the passage of time. Perhaps they were enemies, or perhaps they were the original owner's disciples. It was unknown just how many great eras the original owner was from. It really wasn't easy for him to hide until this era. In the end, Chu Feng found him. He found the original owner in the largest stone room in the belly of the mountain. There were shattered bones everywhere, as well as some tattered human skin. Was he eaten by something, or did his transformation fail? Chu Feng believed it to be the latter. What was even more regretful was that there was nothing left behind. The original owner had exhausted everything during his death seclusion. Even the energy of the treasures on his body had been sucked dry, and the treasures were scattered all over the ground. Even the underground ancestral vein and the nearby region had dried up, only leaving behind dust and ashes. Old Goo also came over, saying, "He really died." Then, he said, "If there is enough time, find someone to excavate this famed mountain's earth veins. Within 5 years, we will be able to extract and refine a portion of great power-level earth." After all, this place hadn't been refined for many years. Where did all the rare and special soil in the world come from? They all came from famed mountains and great rivers, selected bit by bit from the underground ancestral vein and slowly refined. It could be said that every single grain of strange earth was incomparably precious, mixed with blood and bones. It was because there was a need to kill and fight. The famed mountains and great rivers, as well as all types of cultivation, pure lands and ancestral veins, were all occupied by others. Meanwhile, this was all the result of the various clans fighting each other, dividing up territories and fighting over them. Chu Feng sighed. This place was extremely good, but he didn't have the time. How could he wait 5 years to refine the earth? All right, this is the place. Chu Feng produced 3 seeds. One of them had a strange appearance, bright red and replete with moisture, shaped like an 8 trigrams furnace. Of course, Old Goo didn't recognize this one. In his eyes there were only 2, and one of them seemed to have been squashed. Are you King kidding me? Old Goo's expression was extremely unkind. Was he toying with him? He thought that Chu Feng didn't have any roots, didn't have any prehistoric origins, that he was most likely lucky enough to find a secret realm this time, moreover able to store it in a spatial treasure. In the end, this devil lord Chu Feng casually rummaged through his pockets and took out 2 rotten seeds, and this was the great medicine? Judging from the appearance of the seeds, they were black or perhaps dark purple in color. They had all been squashed and crushed. Could this thing be planted? Moreover, which great medicine was planted at the last minute? Which one of them didn't grow for a long period of time and produce flower buds? Only then could they pay a huge price to ripen it. Did you just randomly pick up 2 beans and 2 weed seeds? You dare to trick me like that? Deceiving my strange earth. Old Goo was so angry that his nose was about to become crooked. Don't worry, I'll let you witness a miracle in a while. Chu Feng's expression was solemn. He really wasn't joking. Being able to evolve in front of Old Goo was a manifestation of his complete trust. This time, old Gu was quite generous, directly obtaining nearly 4 portions of almighty-level evolution soil for him. This was a great debt of gratitude. Chu Feng felt that he had to properly repay old Gu in the future. Old Gu became more and more suspicious, feeling that this was unreliable. He had never seen someone plant medicine at the last minute just to evolve. Chu Feng also sighed and said, "There's no problem with the medicine. What I'm most worried about is the lack of strange earth." Then, he turned around and left. He decided to take a stroll, or else he would be a bit unwilling. "Where are you going?" old Gu asked. "I want to see if the 3 old fellows of the Yuan tribe have made a move," replied Chu Feng. Old Gu could see that this devil lord wasn't lying and was actually serious. He was simply crazy poor, and his thirst for the strange earth had reached a crazy level. Old Gu accompanied him on this trip, but the two were disappointed, especially Chu Feng. He was a bit quiet and nervous along the way, feeling that he didn't have enough strange earth. Old Gu was at a loss for a while, but in the end, he clenched his teeth and said, "How about this? I'll go and gather another portion for you. But you have to return it to me as soon as possible. Otherwise, some of my herbs will die." He didn't believe in evil and clenched his teeth to help Chu Feng. He wanted to see what he could grow. Could it really be so evil? "Old Gu, you must have been my lover in your past life. Let's meet again in this life by fate." Chu Feng was moved and grabbed his arm. "Get lost." Old Gu pushed him away and then shook his hand with all his might. He felt goosebumps all over his body, and his entire body was shivering. Especially that hand, it felt like cold air was blowing. Apart from the divine medicinal trees, Old Gu had also prepared 3 medicinal gardens in the prehistoric era. He was afraid that something would happen to the medicinal trees and they wouldn't be able to survive until this era. Fortunately, he still had a backup plan. His most powerful medicinal trees weren't damaged. "I'm going to the medicinal garden to dig up some earth. But after you advance, you must quickly replenish it for me. Otherwise, I'm afraid the herbs in the garden will die." Then, Old Gu left to dig up the earth for real. Half a day later, Old Gu returned and brought 1½ portions of almighty-grade earth for Chu Feng. It was flowing with brilliant colors and surging with spiritual purity. The energy density was incomparably astonishing. Old Gu was incomparably serious as he said, "Let me tell you, this is from the 3 medicinal gardens. If I don't replenish it in the near future, some of the medicinal herbs won't be able to be preserved. My losses will be boundless. I'll remember this favor." Chu Feng nodded solemnly. "A favor?" Old Gu was anxious and corrected him. Like this, there were 7 portions of almighty-grade mutant earth in total. After returning to the famed mountain, Chu Feng walked into the mountainside and began to make serious preparations. Old Gu's appetite was indeed whetted. He still found it hard to believe that Chu Feng would produce some astonishing pollen when he planted medicine on the spot. It didn't feel believable. Especially when he saw the seed Chu Feng chose in the end. He was so shocked that his jaw almost fell to the ground and his eyes almost popped out. "Do you think I'm an idiot? What the hell did you take out?" Old Gu was indignant and truly couldn't bear it anymore. This devil Chu Feng actually fooled him like this. He took out a small 8 trigrams furnace and prepared to plant it. "Do you think I've never seen the world and don't know about the wondrous seeds under the heavens? Let me tell you, I have a peerless medicinal tree myself. I've also seen those undefeated seeds and peerless fruits at my big brother's place. You dare to deceive Grandpa Gu like this?" Old Gu was truly anxious. That was because he felt that this swindler Chu had hurt his feelings. He was so crude and unskillful even in deceiving others. "Don't be impatient." Chu Feng told him not to be agitated. He took out the stone jar and poured out the messy things inside. This included reincarnation soil. Old Gu had naturally seen it before and had even been gifted some by Chu Feng when they parted last time. However, he still couldn't help but be envious. But when Old Goo saw the gray creature, his expression changed and he became even more suspicious. How could there be such an inauspicious substance? What was Chu Feng doing? What was his identity? Don't worry, I don't fear the inauspicious now. I'm not in cahoots with them. I've subdued this thing and can kill it at any time. Following this, Chu Feng patted the gray creature's head and said, "Dog, say hello to your Grandpa Goo. Sooner or later, I'll make you wish you were dead." The gray creature snarled. It had been forcefully suppressed into the form of a greyhound by Chu Feng, so it simply hated him to death. Old Goo's eyes stared blankly. Today, he had truly witnessed all kinds of oddities. Then, he fixed his eyes on another inauspicious item, a bloody, humanoid monster. This was caused by Chu Feng's careless contact with the rare cosmic-grade pollen grains in the Taishang Forbidden Land. It had once caused his body to undergo a strange transformation, and he had slashed it out. It's fine. This blood-colored humanoid monster is now ignorant and muddle-headed. It has no initiative and will. I'll deal with it after I advance. Now Chu Feng could bury it with reincarnation soil. It had become increasingly quiet during this period of time. The time to witness a miracle has arrived, Chu Feng said to Old Goo. He put all kinds of powerful mutant soil into the stone jar and also placed the seeds inside. Finally, he buried the stone jar under the mountain soil. Chu Feng said, "Perhaps a miracle isn't that surprising. After all, I'm now a deity and have 2 eternal King Dao fruit. I should express it like this: the time to witness the ultimate has arrived." Old Goo curled his lips. He really wanted to say, "Let's see how many days you'll need to grow them and how many days you'll need to accelerate their ripening." Moreover, he seriously suspected that even if a certain medicinal herb was grown, its effects wouldn't necessarily be that strong. However, the next moment, Old Goo's eyes went straight and almost became cross-eyed. He saw something. Rich energy was boiling and terrifying changes were taking place inside the jar. In a hurry, he saw a wisp of purple multicolored light blossom. There were leaves that overflowed with brilliant colors, and each plant had 3 leaves. It was as if heaven and earth were being split apart as primal chaos mist pervaded the air. One plant with 3 leaves seemed to be deducing the Tao begets 1, and 3 begets all things. It really sprouted and it grew out so quickly? Old Goo was astonished. What shocked him even further was that the plant with 3 leaves grew rapidly, uprooting itself from the ground and directly turning into a large tree. Damn, it's not flowers and plants but a tree? How is this possible? It grew in the blink of an eye. Old Goo cried out. His eyes shone with green light, and he was completely stunned. Chu Feng was even more excited than him. It actually succeeded and actually grew a great medicine. He could evolve again and advance triumphantly. Chapter 15:12. The medicinal tree really did grow. In the blink of an eye, it already reached 6 zhang in height, the 3 leaves turning into 3 branches. Chaotic mist pervaded the air, surging there. One could vaguely hear scripture sounds from the top of the tree. This tree was too strange, quickly growing to 6 zhang in height, and then it stopped growing. Its trunk was a purple-brown color, the old bark cracked, as if it had grown for endless years, engraved with the great changes of time. Every single piece of old bark was the size of a palm, as if they were dragon scales. On the tree, the 3 branches seemed to be giving birth to all things. Primal chaos was hazy, the leaves flourishing, all of them sparkling purple. Every single leaf was like a world. The purple leaves were too special, carrying dewdrop. Every single water droplet was like a star, hanging on the leaves, reflecting the myriad scenes of the world, the great changes of the world. The 6 zhang great tree didn't seem like it had just grown at all. It gave off an endless ancient feeling, as if it had existed here since the creation of the world. The leaves on the tree moved without wind, sparkling and shining, accompanied by primal chaos. There were even more purple clouds covering this place, the divine atmosphere astonishing. When the leaves collided with each other, scripture sounds rang out, transmitted from the era when the world was opened. The old man was shocked. He felt like he really had to eat back the words he said, because he really did look like he hadn't seen the world before, his mouth wide open. Now, he was stupefied. The old man felt that this was too absurd, that this type of thing shouldn't have happened. However, the real situation really was playing out, and he was personally witnessing it. Inconceivable, hard to believe. He even suspected that he was going insane. He forcefully pinched himself, the pain making his face twitch. He opened his mouth, eyes widened, and then he walked forward step by step, touching the ancient tree. It was rough and sturdy, as if the scales of an ancestral dragon covered the trunk. The entire ancient tree was flourishing, its roots endless, extending out from the jar. Apart from absorbing the strange earth, it was also absorbing the power of the earth vein below the mountain. Chu Feng closed his eyes, not moving at all. He was listening to the scripture sounds, comprehending the strange and special great Tao sounds. He vaguely saw countless light particles scattering down on the dusky great earth, dancing about. Was this because he sensed something, so he was able to sense something, comprehend something? He had just understood a few secrets of the pollen evolution path, and now, he saw these scenes in his mind. That scripture sound was extremely mysterious, and also extremely special. It continuously reverberated, as if it came from beyond heaven and earth, above the heavens, beyond the endless worlds. Someone was chanting scriptures. It couldn't be heard clearly, extremely indistinct, but it could make one feel as if they were undergoing a baptism, as if their life level was undergoing a leap, their entire being becoming tranquil. At this moment, many of the questions Chu Feng had about evolution that had puzzled him for many years seemed to have been answered. He stood up and closed his eyes. It was as if he was receiving guidance, about to be enlightened, to develop the unmatched great Tao in his heart. Beneath the great tree, Chu Feng stretched out his body and brandished his ultimate fist. In the blink of an eye, fist imprints surged like thunder and immortals, exploding everywhere and causing the belly of the mountain to rumble. In the next moment, he used the wonderful seven treasures technique again. Several kinds of divine light surged, making him look like an immortal lord in the sky, supreme and dignified and peerless. Old Gu took a step back. He sucked in a breath of cold air. The flower hadn't even blossomed yet, but Chu Feng was already enlightened? The heavenly deity level was extremely important. It was rumored that one could hear the breathing of the heavens, able to comprehend the great Tao truths of the world's creation, able to resonate with the undying. The old man could tell that Chu Feng directly comprehended the Tao, as if he was reversing the flow of time, moving upwards along the long river of time, wishing to reach the source, wishing to reach the absolute beginning and comprehend the highest Tao fruit. However, the pollen hadn't appeared yet, the fruit hadn't even grown yet, so how could he have been baptized by those special scriptures? The old man was doubtful, extremely puzzled. He also heard the scripture sounds, as if it came from beyond the world, a river that transcended time, directly transmitting it here. However, he couldn't comprehend it, unable to experience anything. The old man believed that this great tree was extremely sinister, special, and strange. While he was shocked, he also felt great reverence. Not good, Chu Feng, wake up. You've stepped onto the wrong path, gone mad. Your flesh is going to rot. The old man shouted. Under the great tree, Chu Feng's fist imprints were unmatched, his entire body shining. However, there was something wrong with him. His entire body was festering, his flesh releasing a rotting smell, his entire body about to fall off. This scene was extremely terrifying. The old man understood clearly what this signified. When 100 half-empyrean ascended, 99 of them would fail, dying miserably. Rotting, this was one of the most terrifying things. When one reached the later stages of the pollen evolution path, they would definitely encounter this type of great trouble, a disaster. Normally speaking, after this type of situation appeared, it was extremely difficult to reverse, unless one had special life-saving immortal medicines on them. The old man himself encountered this type of problem. Of course, his problem wasn't that serious, just a bit of rotting, but he still forcefully made it through. Right now, Chu Feng's illness was simply beyond cure, his entire body festering, flesh separating, his entire body about to fall off. The rotting smell was especially strong. Even though his fist imprints were still resplendent, still releasing auspicious light, his body was extremely inauspicious, even more so than a 10,000-year rotting corpse. However, even though old Mandarin shouted over there, Chu Feng didn't hear at all, as if he didn't sense anything at all, still operating all types of secret methods, displaying his own Tao. Later on, he even began to cultivate the Seven Deaths body. He he! A laughter that made one's blood run cold sounded cold and ice cold, making one feel as if they fell into an icehouse. The gray creature broke free, currently closing in on Chu Feng, about to throw itself at him. The old man became nervous. This thing still came to interfere at the crucial moment, the consequences even more unimaginable. Dang! He held the lid of the stone container in his hands, directly smacking it over. The gray creature originally didn't fear the old man, but when it saw that this was a part of the container, it immediately revealed fear, throwing itself at Chu Feng even more fiercely. "You can just stay here for me." The old man flipped out. However, before he took action, even though Chu Feng's eyes were closed, deriving his own Tao, shutting himself off from the inner world, he seemed to have sensed danger, moving on his own. 5 streaks of divine light surged from his back, immediately sweeping over the gray creature. He grabbed it in his hands, and then a fist smashed through it, almost killing it. The gray creature cried out loudly, incomparably miserable. A small half of its body collapsed, turning into gray matter, absorbed by Chu Feng's decaying body, completely refined. Then, Chu Feng tossed it onto the ground, stepping on it with one foot, deriving his own method again, immersing himself in a special state. The old man was stupefied. He shouted loudly, "You're going to die, your flesh is falling off, wake up." This was indeed the case. Chu Feng's situation worsened, large amounts of flesh falling off, the decaying aura pervading the air, becoming even stronger. Suddenly, Chu Feng opened his eyes, waking up from that wondrous state of enlightenment. He saw his flesh falling off, his body rotting, his expression naturally changing. The pollen evolution path was terrifying after all, there really wasn't any luck to speak of. If one continued step by step, in the end, they would still encounter a disaster of death. This path became more and more dangerous the further one went, almost ending everyone's lives. This was also the reason why there weren't many ultimate creatures in the last great era. Even the great universe couldn't escape death in the end, because it was too difficult to make it through the early stages. In the end, they would rot, mutate, and die before reaching the middle and late stages. Chu Feng lowered his head to look at his palm, flesh falling off, revealing sparkling pure white finger bones. However, he didn't feel any pain, brandishing his fists, fist radiance still dazzling, incomparably domineering. What was this? Was he going to die? Unknowingly, without feeling pain, was he going to rot into dust? Chu Feng sensed danger. Many of his predecessors died like this, unable to make it through at all. This was especially the case for people like him who didn't go through any accumulation, advancing triumphantly all the way, but in the end, he would be dealt with. This path was like cursed. Right now, he had this type of feeling. This path had already been cut off, a huge problem had occurred, he seemed to have been cursed. What am I cursing? Who can curse this evolution path? Who can take my life? Chu Feng was unwilling, raising his head towards the sky. In that instant, his expression became terrifying, half of his originally delicate and pretty face decayed, falling off, only leaving behind white bones. Bang! Divine flames soared from his body, and the small gray millstone inside was operating frantically, But it was useless. He was still rotting. The next moment, he began to inscribe the golden runes that originated from the stone jar, but he still couldn't change anything. This seemed to be the internal cause of evolution. It was unavoidable, and external forces couldn't stop it. His body and even his soul light seemed to be rotting. At this time, Chu Feng spread out his palm and discovered that his pure white bones were beginning to dim, about to rot. I don't believe that I'll die. I've never been defeated in the same domain. This is just a rotten transformation at the same realm as me. What does this count as? Get lost! Shouted Chu Feng. His body shone, and even though most of his flesh had fallen off, he still stood with his head held high without fear, still brandishing his fist. Gradually, he calmed down. Regardless of whether his body was rotting or not, he concentrated on comprehending the evolution process. Amidst the scripture sounds, 60 to 70% of his flesh fell off. It was terrifying, but Chu Feng's heart became increasingly peaceful and tranquil. Comprehension and action were one. He had once told Yu Shang that he didn't fear rotting. The so-called indescribable should only be a tribulation that the universe had to go through during the evolution process. Just now, even he himself was shaken? Now, he was fearless. If he died, then so be it. If he didn't die, he would become even stronger. Now that he had comprehended this process, he was completely unafraid of the rotting death process. As expected, there were no gains or losses from the change in his mentality. Now, he had sunk a step further into enlightenment and was comprehending the Tao. The scripture sounds emitted by the tree were like tangible runes that sprinkled down, causing Chu Feng to change even further. In the end, 80% of his body had rotted and fallen off. So much so that even his bones were rotting and didn't have their luster anymore. But as time went on, this kind of deterioration became weaker and weaker. It gradually stopped and couldn't advance a step further. Evolution, getting rid of the impurities and retaining the essence, forgetting life and death. Without the heart of gain and loss, would it be safer? The old man was shaken. This was because he discovered that Chu Feng had stopped his decline. Not only that, but his flesh began to wriggle about. His bones released Clipchamp sounds as they became even more lustrous and sturdy. However, how many people could remain calm and fearless at this moment? Over 90% of people would go crazy when they saw their bodies rotting, and they would all want to resist. Even if they could remain calm, how many people could endure it? They might not necessarily succeed. The way the old man looked at Chu Feng changed. This demon's talents were great, and at the same time, his body's resistance was too terrifying. He actually resisted the calamity of rotting. The old man suspected that if Chu Feng walked the path of the universe, could he really succeed and walk all the way to the end? One had to know that from ancient times until now, there had never been a universe that lived to the end. In the end, they all died miserably, unable to endure all kinds of terrifying changes. Of course, the rotting of Chu Feng today was far from being comparable to that of the universe. Moreover, the universe wasn't just a type of decay, there were also all kinds of unimaginable tribulations. Later on, his flesh was reborn and he gradually recovered. And at this time, on the great tree, a flower bud was growing. All of the scripture sounds seemed to turn into tangible symbols that gathered towards the flower bud. The purple leaves flickered and a pure white flower bud the size of a bowl appeared between them. Then, with a bow sound, it suddenly bloomed just like that. The old man stared blankly in the distance. This medicinal tree was too mysterious. It grew up in an instant and bloomed in an instant. It was simply unimaginable. He had never heard of this type of medicinal herb before history. In the next moment, the huge medicinal flower swayed gently. It was pure white and flawless. A large amount of white mist poured down from within, enveloping Chu Feng. The fragrance was intoxicating. In a split second, all of the pores on Chu Feng's body relaxed. His entire body was relaxed and his entire being was about to leave the ground. He was about to ascend into the sky, becoming incomparably agile. He was submerged in light particles and his entire body was being nourished. The dual Tao fruits in his body were both sublimating, transforming, evolving on all fronts. Chu Feng's flesh was becoming stronger and his spirit was flourishing. He was becoming more and more extraordinary. He himself could feel his own strength rapidly increasing. Hung Long. His body violently trembled. He had broken through and entered an even higher domain. The two Tao fruits advanced at the same time. The quality of Chu Feng's body rose in all aspects and his strength rose sharply. A gale stirred up, making it so that the old man couldn't stand still. He was forced to stagger far away by the powerful momentum, and at this time, Chu Feng's body underwent another vicious change. Indescribable changes appeared all over his body. All kinds of strange patterns extended all over his body like iron chains, wanting to bind him and strangle him to death. In the end, the old man was shocked because he could clearly hear the sound of iron chains colliding. It was ice-cold and ear-splitting. On the surface of Chu Feng's body, the patterns that appeared were like real iron chains. They tightened tighter and tighter, binding his soul and wanting to thoroughly strangle him. Is there still justice in this world? He is only at the Empyrean realm, yet there is such a great killing tribulation. This kind of strange transformation is too terrifying. The old man was anxious, but he couldn't help. That was an internal cause, a problem with the evolver himself. Perhaps it was because he hadn't accumulated enough experience and evolved too quickly. It was also possible that he had long since been contaminated with inauspicious things. Chu Feng was still expressionless. He was practicing martial arts and displaying everything he had learned. He circulated the robbery induction breathing technique, and his mouth and nose were full of white mist. He was trying to fuse all the wonderful arts and fist scriptures together and truly make them his own. At this time, he didn't fear death or evil changes. In the end, although his body showed signs of decay and the iron chains tightened, he was also becoming stronger. Boom! His body blossomed with dazzling light as the iron chain patterns on his body were forcibly broken. His flesh was flawless and his soul was pure. Those strange patterns were no longer present. On the ground, the gray creature that had been stomped into the soil by Chu Feng was horrified. It trembled and simply couldn't believe that this man could even erase those patterns. From its point of view, these patterns were strange among strange. As soon as they appeared, those who were contaminated by them would definitely rot. If they didn't become corpse servants, they would die. The gray creature recognized that this was the aura released by its ancestor-level creature. Not long ago, something had happened at the Soul River. Could it be that this person had been contaminated there? Chu Feng was transforming. His entire body was flawless and increasingly resplendent. He was even more resplendent than the sun. He clenched his fists slightly and the void collapsed. He was incomparably tyrannical. Is he going to succeed? The old man was astonished. Chu Feng's heart was very calm. This time, both Tao fruits were advancing at the same time. He still wanted to find an opportunity to let the other Tao fruit be contaminated with the aura of the great Yin realm. However, he couldn't care so much right now. He would think about it when he had the chance to enter the great Yin realm in the future. Rumble. His body shone and his soul was dazzling. A rain of light scattered down from his body, as if the scenes of the past had reappeared. Countless light particles appeared and submerged him. This was an ancient path, a broken path. An evolutionary path that had disappeared for countless years had now reappeared. Peerless dual venerables, the old man said softly. He didn't need to think too much. Just from seeing this scene, he knew that Chu Feng's evolution was quite perfect. He had succeeded. Who could still contend against this domain? The Third Sect Master. Chapter 15:13. An ancient road stretched into the distance, but one could see that at the end of the road was broken. This was extremely strange. During Chu Feng's evolution, a road actually appeared. It stretched across the world. It was very blurry and very profound. It seemed to have existed for billions of years, and had been buried in dust and forgotten by history. Now, a small section of the hazy outline of the broken road was revealed. How could Chu Feng be satisfied with his current cultivation? He still wanted to be stronger. Now, although his 2 Tao fruits had ascended together and his body was as bright as the sun, the 2 Tao fruits resonated in his flesh and blood. This was not the end. Next, he still had to break through to the Grand Empyrean realm. You! The old man was shocked and his pupils shrank. You are still not a Grand Empyrean? This horrified him. How was this possible? This was because he clearly felt a powerful aura that forced him back. Chu Feng was definitely not weaker than a Grand Empyrean. Buzz. The void trembled and the world instantly darkened. Nothing could be seen in the distance. At this moment, the belly of the mountain was like the depths of the universe, vast and distant. The darkness became the background. That road was becoming more and more real. The old man sucked in a breath of cold air. Today, it was as if he had never seen the world before. He was shocked many times and found it hard to believe his eyes. The surroundings of this road were very dim, like the night sky. It was easy to get lost. There was endless darkness in the distance, and nothing could be seen. Only near the road, light particles scattered down to guide the way forward. Unfortunately, the road was broken. There was a black moat ahead, as if it had been split open by a sharp blade. This was very evil and terrifying. A road of evolution was only a road in people's hearts. How could it appear like this and even show the scene of it being split open? The black crack was the end of the road, separated by a boundless abyss. It was unknown what was happening on the other side. Fog filled the air as if there was something terrifying wailing on the other side. The old man stood in the distance and quietly watched. He felt a chill run down his back. Was this the end of the pollen evolution road they had to walk? It was unknown what would happen if they really reached the end one day. Today was the first time he had seen such a phenomenon. In his many evolutions in the past, there had never been such a special, true path appearing beside him. Chu Feng was also greatly touched. After seeing the last piece of the truth from the stone jar, he once again felt the connection between man and nature. Or, to be more precise, was it the mutual connection between man and the truth? Boom! Dazzling light erupted from his body as he walked his own path. He was going to make another breakthrough and become a Grand Empyrean. However, this time, the amount of pollen was obviously less, and even the tree was a little dimmer. Not good! Chu Feng's mind was trembling. The thing he was most worried about had happened. Was there not enough almighty-grade alien soil? Old Gu's eyes were also staring blankly. He naturally saw that the leaves on the tree weren't as brilliant as before. All types of spiritual essence and energy were gathering towards the flowers. The old bark of the 60-feet-tall tree cracked even more, and the primal chaos mist also became much thinner. What the hell? The old man was stupefied. Regardless of whether it was an Empyrean or Great Empyrean, they were all in the same great domain, yet they had used up several portions of Great Being Earth. Moreover, was this still not enough? In the darkness, a long black blade slowly approached. It was so clear, cold, and terrifying that it could cut apart the great Tao. It pointed straight at the space between Chu Feng's eyebrows and silently chopped down. Huh! Chu Feng was astonished. What was this? A curtain of light rose on its own around his body, like a thick divine wall to block this blade. However, the blade was icy cold and frightening. It was like a reincarnation blade from hell that could cut through everything. His protective light curtain couldn't stop it and was easily cut open. This path is truly strange and unpredictable. Nothing is out of the ordinary, but there's actually this kind of material-like blade attack. Chu Feng slowly raised his fist and used the ultimate fist. He also engraved the golden runes that had manifested from the stone jar. He didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. The slightest bit of carelessness during the evolution process would lead to a miserable death, so he had to go all out. Dang! His fist blossomed with a dazzling beam of light. It struck the black blade and actually produced a true metallic sound. In the blink of an eye, the black blade was pushed back and disintegrated on its own. It turned into dozens of pieces and transformed into jet-black beams of light that rushed into Chu Feng's body from all directions at an inconceivable speed. I knew it. How could the aura left behind by an ancestor-level existence be so easily dealt with? The true killing move is here. Curse him. Under Chu Feng's feet, the gray creature was excited. It was incomparably excited in secret. Chu Feng let out a muffled groan as dozens of beams of light rushed about in his body. He had suffered an inexplicable obstruction, and even the flickering broken path in front of him was about to disappear. Obstructing my path and cutting off my evolutionary prospects? He realized that it was still that strange energy that had entangled his body like iron chains not long ago. Now it had become even more fierce. Within his body, the gray grinding stone rotated and frantically absorbed the beams of light. At the same time, he was also operating the robbery induction breathing technique. Roar! All of a sudden, the humanoid monster sealed in the reincarnation earth broke free and pounced toward Chu Feng's body. It was too ferocious and simply impossible to evade. This was the result of the blood monster Chu Feng had slashed out. It had accidentally come into contact with a small amount of cosmic pollen and was originally formed from a mixture of his blood and strange substances. Now, at the critical moment of his evolution, the blood-colored humanoid monster had also attacked and merged with him once again. The old man was anxious. This was simply inexplicable. Those things had directly entered Chu Feng's body and had become one with him. He couldn't help even if he wanted to. There were internal troubles and external aggression. All of the bad things gathered together and all of them happened. If it was anyone else, they would have died without a doubt. They would have perished on the spot. Even Chu Feng's body was shaking violently and blood was dripping from all his pores. A single mistake would have consigned him to eternal damnation, and he might even die a miserable death. That's fine as well. Let all the hidden dangers erupt and I'll deal with them all at once. This kind of tempering is the best touchstone. If I can endure it, I'll be the strongest. However, another bad thing appeared. In front of him, the 6-meter-tall old tree became increasingly dim. Its purple leaves were withering and the entire body was swaying with rustling sounds. Especially since the flowers were about to wither and there was no pollen falling down. Chu Feng took steps forward and continuously activated the famed mountain's domains. He absorbed the energy of the underground ancestral vein and nurtured the cracked bark of the tree. Even so, he couldn't make the flower bud bloom again. The only consolation was that he had stopped it from withering. The next moment the entire tree shrank continuously and condensed into a 3-meter-tall, half-closed flower bud which fell into the stone jar. It seemed to be in hibernation, completely silent and motionless. This was terrible. Chu Feng was still evolving and wanted to continue breaking through. Moreover, he was under the threat of death, and there were all kinds of hidden dangers within his body. Something big had happened. But the pollen was gone and couldn't provide him with any help. Old Gu couldn't bear to watch. His face was deathly pale. What was going on? Was the heavens jealous of the heroic genius? He truly felt pity for Chu Feng. The medicine tree had a problem at the most crucial moment of evolution. This was the most fatal, and there was nothing more harmful than this. Without a catalyst and an evolutionary primer, it was difficult to communicate with the mysterious factors between heaven and earth. It would greatly increase the activity of the cells in the body and make it difficult for them to evolve. So much so that an organism that had experienced such a tragic change might even degenerate its original body and undergo the most terrifying state of exhaustion. Chu Feng closed his eyes and calmed himself down. He circulated his breathing technique, and not only did his pores breathe in and out, but even his soul was also breathing in and out. The two resonated with each breath. In the end, he forgot everything. He performed his own technique over and over again, stepping on his own path. Boom! A small bell rumbled within his body. It expanded from the center and spread outwards, scattering a fair amount of black light. Next, countless small swords, tens of thousands of them, formed from golden runes. They were so small that they were almost invisible as they flowed within his blood and washed his entire body. Amidst the hissing sounds and shrill screams that made one's scalp go numb, it was as if terrifying ghosts were being annihilated one after another, their heads chopped off. Many malignant substances were cut out from within Chu Feng's body. They were then obliterated and expelled from his body. The next moment, 5 incomparably brilliant beams of divine light rushed out from within his flesh. This was the wonderful 7 treasures technique. He had only found 5 precious substances at the moment, so the multicolored auspicious clouds appeared and blossomed splendidly. This kind of light swept through everything and started from within his body. It obliterated much of the blood mist and malignant substances, driving them out and purifying them. Very soon, Chu Feng used all kinds of techniques, such as the immortal bird race's nirvana technique recorded in the ancient books he had taken from the martial madman's armory. In addition, he used the lightning fist, the Virokana fist, and various other techniques. They all merged together and contained powerful golden runes to purify him. Later on, all the malignant substances had been eliminated. He had actually completely resolved the hidden danger on his own. However, Chu Feng's body was also riddled with holes. There was a major problem. He closed his eyes and remained unmoved as he tried his best to perceive the blurry broken path in front of him. He chanted scriptures and circulated his breathing technique to draw upon the light particles that originally existed between heaven and earth. They were the spiritual substances he had seen before. They were the countless special pollen particles that had been covered up by time and buried in dust. They began to appear. Boom! At this moment, heaven and earth rotated and reincarnation reversed. Everything seemed to have changed. The path in front of Chu Feng became increasingly clear and the broken path could be touched within reach. The old man was shocked and couldn't help but touch the path that extended toward him. It actually, really existed. In the blink of an eye, Chu Feng stood on it. There was boundless darkness in the distance, but there were light particles on the path. They danced like fireflies in the night sky and gathered toward him. I want to become stronger. If there comes a day when I lose the seed and the stone jar, I can still evolve. He muttered calmly and indifferently. At this moment, he was completely immersed in a special Tao realm. He illuminated the ancient path, meditated on the light particles, and absorbed the mysterious substances that emitted light. These substances originally existed between heaven and earth. They weren't created by anyone and weren't left behind for anyone. If one could obtain anything, they would have to rely on themselves. Buzz. The void resonated. Countless light particles danced about in the darkness and surged toward the broken path, submerging Chu Feng. He was like a human-shaped beam of light. His tattered body was recovering. At the same time, he was fusing with his own technique. He gained more and more comprehension and his entire being was sublimating. At this moment, he felt as if he had experienced thousands of years. It was like an eternal moment, a person's spirit leaving their body for a short period of reincarnation. In the end, Chu Feng took a firm and confident step forward on the broken path. Boom! The instant his foot landed on the ground, the entire path began to tremble and shake. Countless specks of dust fell from the sky, making the ancient path more and more visible. It was like he had polished a treasure, allowing the path to see the light of day again. Chu Feng's body recovered, and his strength increased explosively again. He had broken through. Without relying on the pollen, his dual Tao fruits evolved again. It was just a pity that he was so close to becoming a celestial venerable hung. As for the grand celestial venerables, they had naturally been trampled by him. Now, he could be considered a celestial venerable hung, and his strength had reached the extreme. Everything ended and the place quietened down. Old Goo stood there in a daze and didn't come back to his senses for a long time. Today's evolution had been full of twists and turns. He was trembling in fear and panic. It was simply too dangerous. Fortunately, Chu Feng's evolution was successful. It was perfect. This allowed Old Goo to heave a sigh of relief. The gray creature was in an extremely miserable state. It was stomped into the earth by Chu Feng, and its body was almost sucked dry. Now it was only the size of half a fist. It was a tragic sight to behold. Chu Feng's entire body was sparkling, and even his hair was resplendent. In particular, the human king blood in his body was slowly transforming. It emitted faint purple multicolored light, and it was about to advance. He was already close to the dual eternal deity realm, and with this addition, he could display great power with every movement. Now, even if he encountered a powerful existence, what could he do? What was there to fear? Success. Old Goo's eyes were burning with passion. He felt that the strange soil he gifted out was worth it. Today, his horizons were truly broadened. He actually saw that ancient path. This definitely had far-reaching effect. There was actually someone who could see through the true path that had disappeared. It was too unexpected. Old Goo felt that this would give him a reference for his future evolution. After all, he had seen something different just now. It's done. However, I have to hurry up and let the seed grow again. I should also completely become a Hing King. Now, what Chu Feng was most worried about was that the seed had shrunk after growing into a medicinal tree. It actually stopped there, neither advancing nor retreating. Too many accidents had occurred. They walked out of the belly of the mountain and arrived at a plain. In an instant, Chu Feng's communicator rang incessantly. Then, he received all kinds of audio and video messages. G-Dade, where the hell have you been? You stood me up. This dragon isn't finished with you. Chowda, you bastard. You've tricked me again. This seat will remember this. Just wait and see, I won't let you off. There's not a single good thing in the degeneration. You're all as cowardly as a mouse. You said you would attend the meeting. Where's your integrity? Where's your conscience? All of them were sent by the strange dragon. It was cursing Chu Feng and was furious that he didn't appear. Long Yu waited at the agreed location for a long time. He wasted a lot of time, but he didn't even see a single strand of hair. He was furious. He felt that he had been played by Chu Feng again. He wanted nothing more than to skin him alive. In particular, he had prepared a big gift and was waiting to deal with Chu Feng, but that bastard actually didn't show up. Chu Feng contacted him immediately and said, "You, where are you? I'm Brother Dade. I've been delayed on the road. Tell me a place, and I'll go through fire and water without hesitation. I'll rush over immediately. You dog, don't try to trick me again. This dragon won't fall for it." Long Yu was furious. "I'm really not tricking you. I'm really going this time," Chu Feng said very honestly. That was because he really wasn't lying. He was going to rob the strange dragon. Even if the strange dragon had set up an ambush and called in the mighty ones to stop him, he wasn't afraid. He would see who was tricked. Really? Green light shone from the depths of Long Yu's eyes. "It's true," Chu Feng replied in a tone of absolute certainty. Chapter 15-14. Long Yu's face was still a bit dissatisfied after hearing his affirmative answer, but he was very excited inside. He could finally take care of this bastard. Then, he pretended to be annoyed and even a bit indifferent as he set a new meeting place with Chu Feng. This time, Chu Feng readily agreed and promised that he wouldn't be late. After ending the call and putting away the communicator, Chu Feng noticed that Old Goo was staring at him with a strange expression on his face. You want to kill that strange dragon, Old Gu said leisurely. Now, Chu Feng had almost 2 eternal venerable Dao fruit. His strength was boundless and he definitely had the means to kill almighty experts. At this time, if Chu Feng went to fulfill his promise and that strange dragon appeared in high spirits, he wouldn't be able to cry even if he wanted to. Chu Feng retorted, "You can't say that. It's clear that it wants to trick me. This dragon is too evil. I just want to defend myself. I've never heard of it. Preparing in advance and taking the initiative to go and defend itself," Old Gu said disdainfully. Then, he suddenly became serious and said, "You have to be careful. Don't capsize. Since this strange dragon dares to do this, it most likely has a safe method to kill you." Chu Feng became serious after hearing this. He also realized that he might have been too careless. This strange dragon wasn't a simple creature. Since it dared to hunt him, it would definitely be very sinister. You should know that you are only a quasi-Heng Zun after all. You haven't truly stepped into that realm yet. Even if you were to fight against a powerful being, it would still cause quite a commotion. It's impossible for you to kill them silently. Creatures of that level are far more powerful than you can imagine. What if there are 2, 3, or even 4 of them? Do you think you can resist the joint attack of such powerful beings? Old Gu's words startled Chu Feng. This strange dragon might really be able to find 4 almighty experts. If he was defeated by Long Diu instead, it would be disastrous. Most importantly, Chu Feng knew that if he fought with the almighty experts brought by Long Diu, the commotion would be too great and the Yuan tribe would be alerted. In that case, he might not be able to empty out the nests of the 3 mighty figures that he had reserved. So, I have to kill the Yuan clan first. I have to kill them one by one without anyone knowing. Then, I will harvest Long Diu's strange land. Chu Feng rubbed his chin, contemplating. If that was the case, he would have to stand Long Diu up again. He reckoned that the strange dragon would be infuriated and resent him greatly. However, Chu Feng was sure that even if he stood Long Diu up again, Long Diu would still agree to meet him next time. All of this was because the strange dragon's resentment towards him had deepened. Actually, it's not that troublesome. There's no harm in standing that strange dragon up again. Whet his appetite. When I come out of seclusion, the 2 of us will go together, and any problem will be solved. Old Gu said confidently. He wanted to enter the realm of the almighty experts and have Chu Feng protect him. Then, he would have to wait for a while. It's better to be safe than sorry. If this strange dragon really has a lot of influence and tricks up his sleeves, he might be able to invite 4 or even 5 almighty experts at once. Considering that I'm not a true dual eternal paragon of Dao fruit cultivator, I might really fail miserably. Chu Feng was very calm. He wasn't careless just because of his breakthrough. He reflected on himself and became serious. He decided to accompany Old Gu. Chu Feng thought, "Strange dragon, I'm sorry. Go and stomp your feet. Whether you're fuming with anger or vomiting blood, it's none of my business for now." Just like that, the strange dragon was stood up once again. At this time, the strange dragon was excitedly calling out to his old friends. Old Gu and Chu Feng had expected that the worst situation was about to unfold. The strange dragon called out all of his old friends from his previous life. As for how many of them would come, he wasn't sure. However, there were at least 3 or 4 of them. "You dog, you won't be able to escape this time. I don't believe that I can't take care of you. Don't you know who this Lord Dragon is? I take my revenge and never suffer losses. You're dead for sure." He didn't know that he was going to miss his appointment again. If he knew, he would definitely spit out a mouthful of blood. Again? Don't tell me we're being played again this time. Big Dragon, forget it. Listen to me and don't provoke that guy. I feel uneasy. He's not easy to deal with. 3 people immediately responded to Big Dragon. They were once his best friends. When he went to the meeting for the first time, these 3 people had followed him. In the end, they waited for half the night and didn't even see a hare. Don't worry, he'll definitely come this time. Moreover, there won't be any problems. I've invited a few more people. If they also arrive, I feel that we can provoke the old expert and even conquer a few famed mountains. Longdew vowed solemnly and assured them. Then, he ended the conversation and went to make his preparations. Time passed, and another night fell. Longdew arrived on time. The bright moon hung high in the sky, its pure radiance sprinkling down on the beautiful mountain, making the whole mountain hazy, as if it was covered in a layer of divine silver splendor. Longdew got himself a recliner and was very pleased. He came early and lay there, humming a little tune as he waited for Chu Feng to appear. He was very much looking forward to it. Not long after, a total of 5 illusory figures appeared and disappeared in a flash. They were all secretly greeting him. 5 supreme experts. If this news were to spread, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. It was just a barren mountain, but it actually attracted 5 supreme experts in one night. This was a huge commotion. One could imagine how powerful the strange dragon's connections were. Everyone, this brother of mine will definitely compensate me. I dare to guarantee on my honor that he has a huge secret on him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have risen so quickly and become King Heng. The strange dragon was willing to pay a huge price to invite his old brothers, but it wasn't just to vent his anger. He also wanted to fish up a huge sum. Based on his instincts, he felt that there was something strange about Chu Feng and that he was hiding a huge secret. The bright moon hung in the sky, the pine trees rustled, and clear springs flowed over rocks. The scenery was like a painting. Longdew was in a great mood as he quietly waited for Chu Feng to walk into the trap. Then there was no then. He waited until daybreak. His old brothers were all speechless and silently left one by one. In the end, he still didn't see the degeneration appear. Longdew let out a long howl. He was so angry that he felt he was really going to vomit blood. Motherf ***, people can't be so shameless and stand me up again. He couldn't understand. What kind of bad taste did this damned degeneration have? Was he deliberately making fun of him? There was no meaning at all. Longdew was about to go crazy. If he saw Chu Feng, he would definitely beat him to death. What made him feel most ashamed was that a person could fall into the same pit twice. Unfortunately, he was such a person. For 2 days in a row, he was tricked into eating dew in the desolate wilderness and enjoying the mountain wind. That damned degeneration! Was this something a human would do? What made him most indignant was that although his old brothers didn't say anything and left in silence, the impact was even more serious. What did they think of him? There's nothing good about the degeneration. Motherf ***, I'm going crazy. Longdew was really about to cough up blood. His vision turned black, and he really wanted to kill someone. At this moment, his communicator rang. Then, when he saw who it was, his eyes immediately turned red. He was so angry that his whole body trembled, and he wanted nothing more than to crush the communicator. But in the end, he still endured it and answered. He wanted to see what else Chowda had to say. He was really going too far. However, Chu Feng's words almost made him go berserk and his mentality explode. I'm your brother da. Do I need you to introduce yourself? I know it's you. Longdew wanted to roar. Besides, who are you treating as a brother? You've stood me up again, and you still dare to call yourself a brother? I've tolerated you for a long time. I'm going to beat you to death. However, Chu Feng didn't give the strange dragon a chance to fly into a rage. He quickly explained, his saliva flying everywhere, and his tongue wasn't tied up. He spoke very smoothly. An almighty being chased me for an entire night. I almost died. Look, I'm covered in blood and injuries. Many of my bones are broken. It's too miserable. I swear I'll take revenge. The strange dragon was dumbfounded as he looked at the other side of the screen. That damned and shameful degeneration was indeed covered in blood. He was sitting weakly on the ground, gasping for breath. He was so tired that his tongue was about to fall out. Longdew was secretly pleased and felt much better. If he didn't have to pretend, he would have shouted that the heavens had finally opened their eyes. I'm going to recuperate and recover. Tonight I'll crawl over even if I have to crawl. If there's another accident and I can't keep the appointment, let me be struck by lightning. I'll be rotten, strange, and inauspicious for the rest of my life. Chu Feng's vicious vow left the strange dragon dumbfounded. He sighed inwardly that this fellow was truly ruthless. If he dared to make such a vow, did it mean that he wouldn't stand him up this time? Tonight I'll see you at the old place. If I don't go over, I'll let my Tao foundation collapse and my soul light turn to ashes. Wait for me. Chu Feng ended the conversation after he finished speaking. Longdew was speechless. He was originally unbearably angry, but now he was lost in thought. At the same time, he was also very conflicted about whether he should believe him or not. If he believed him, would he still be able to ask his old brothers to take action? He was somewhat indignant. He had visited him 3 times in a row. Even his own brothers would be a little annoyed. This made the strange dragon want to beat Chu Feng to death even more. This bastard had repeatedly stood him up and made him lose too many favors. He couldn't explain it to his old brothers. Now, how could he still open his mouth? In the end, he clenched his teeth and contacted his old brothers again. No matter what, he didn't want to let go of the opportunity to deal with Chu Feng. If he didn't hang Chu Feng up, he felt that there was no justice in the world. He swore that he had to capture that hateful G-Dade. However, some of his old brothers didn't want to talk to him anymore. The strange dragon's old face was flushed red. He tried to explain in every way possible. In the end, only 3 of his old brothers agreed to come out of seclusion and follow him. That damned degeneration. Even if you don't appear, you've made me take the blame again. My brothers all think that I've gone mad. But this is all your fault. It's all because you didn't appear. The strange dragon was indignant and choked with anger. He had a belly full of fire and nowhere to vent it. He felt that he was really going to go crazy. No matter what the reason was, his old brothers had some opinions about him. This was completely because of their past friendship. He had a great reputation, so he could ask them to come out of seclusion again and again. I'll wait until tonight. If you still don't show up, I'll put you on the wanted list throughout the world. Even if I have to spend all my wealth, I'll make the underground world seethe and send out all the experts to hunt you down. Longdew secretly swore. After being mysteriously stood up for 2 nights in a row, he was exhausted both physically and mentally. He was about to explode on the spot. At this time, Chu Feng had returned to a secret realm. He was staring at a towering medicinal tree with Old Gu. Many days ago, Old Gu had buried 2 portions of almighty mutant soil inside to speed up the ripening of the tree. Today, he had also placed the last portion. In fact, 2 portions of mutant soil were enough to make the flower buds on the medicinal tree ripen. They would bloom in another day or 2. Now, he had buried the 3rd portion of mutant soil only to improve the quality of the pollen and speed up the blossoming of the flower buds. Old Gu, are you confident? Are you ready? Chu Feng asked. Don't worry, I've been waiting for this day for a long time. I've been accumulating strength since prehistoric times. My foundation is as solid as it can be. If I fail, there won't be many living beings in this world who can become almighty. Old Gu's confidence was bursting. He was incomparably conceited. When noon arrived, the flower buds on the tree finally began to bloom. This medicinal tree was extraordinary as expected. It actually produced 5 different flowers of 5 different colors. The 5 types of flowers bloomed almost at the same time. Pollen scattered down and fluttered about, covering Old Gu. It was like a thin veil, but also like a 5-colored rosy cloud. Old Gu's evolution had begun. He was advancing towards the almighty level. Watch closely. This is the path of an almighty, mixing heaven and earth Tao patterns, containing the origin of a great world. Its name is Origin of Origin. Old Gu shouted. He was still in the mood to teach and release on the spot. He told Chu Feng how to walk the path from now on. It had to be said that Old Gu was indeed quite skilled. This was especially true regarding the subsequent evolution. His preparations were too ample, down to all the details. For example, the amount of pollen absorbed each time, how much the body needed to relax with each breath, and how much it needed to evolve had all been accurately calculated. This was much more meticulous than Chu Feng. Old Gu had completely grasped the entire situation. This was a medicinal tree that his older brother had used before. He had a large amount of experience that he could use as reference. He had deduced everything clearly. Therefore, he was now very confident and calm. Origin of Origin, mixing heaven Tao patterns, containing the origin of myriad worlds. Old Gu growled. Generally speaking, it was already very good to be able to contain and capture part of the origin patterns of the world. Now that he was risking his life like this, his goal naturally wasn't small. Of course, the almighty level was the Origin of Origin realm. No one could really mix heaven Tao patterns and contain the origin of myriad world. That was just an illusion. It was just that when a person evolved in this realm, they needed to do their best to contain and comprehend it. I want to become stronger. I want to break through into the great Origin of Origin realm. I want to become a eternal essence realm powerhouse and become a true almighty. Old Gu growled and began to go crazy. He absorbed the 5-colored pollen that filled the sky and evolved in a frenzy. Even his flesh and blood seemed to be burning. He was transforming, he was sublimating. The so-called Almighty represented different meanings in the eyes of people at different levels. Sometimes, in the eyes of young cultivators, even celestial venerables were called Almighty. However, with the emergence of a common understanding, people gradually referred to people above the Origin of Origin realm as Almighty. Celestial venerables no longer had that kind of qualification. As for Old Gu, he was very proud and confident. He believed that only evolvers with great origin Tao fruits and above could be considered true almighty. However, even though Old Gu was very confident and had made ample preparations, deducing all kinds of possible consequences, he still encountered an accident during the evolution process. The 5-colored pollen blended and produced some strange changes. It caused his evolution speed to fluctuate between fast and slow. This exceeded his expectations. His body trembled as he endured the great suffering and pressure of the transformation. Then, there were signs of his body rotting. Chu Feng's expression immediately changed. Old Gu's evolution was arduous and difficult. A single misstep could lead to an accident. Boom. He didn't even think about it. He stood in the distance and deduced his own Tao. He constantly visualized and comprehended that true path, resonating with the countless light particles and mysterious substances hidden in this world. Sure enough, he succeeded. He made a small portion of that true path appear vaguely. However, compared to when he was evolving himself, this path was much fainter and almost invisible. Meanwhile, this was already quite strenuous for him. After all, this wasn't his own evolution. This was the true path that was forcefully illuminated by meditation. Old Gu stabilized himself. He stared at the faint path and combined it with his own evolution. He comprehended many things. Then, he released a low roar. His body's blood splashed in all directions and his skin split apart as he began to ascend. This process was extremely dangerous and torturous. It continued for the greater part of a day before Old Gu narrowly escaped death. He successfully evolved and made it through without mishap. "Brother, thank you so much." Old Gu rushed over and shook Chu Feng's shoulder. This type of gratitude came from the bottom of his heart. Just now, he had almost capsized. Even though he had his older brother's medicinal tree from back then, receiving the most powerful catalyst and absorbing the most powerful pollen, he still almost encountered an accident. If he had relied on himself, he should have been able to survive and break into the almighty realm. However, whether or not he could become a powerhouse at the great primordial chaos level was hard to say. But now, with the foundation that he had accumulated since prehistoric times, the invincible medicinal tree that Li Su had left behind, and the true path phantom that Chu Feng had displayed, he had succeeded. He had crossed a great step that ordinary people couldn't even imagine. From the great heavenly venerable level, he had directly stepped into the great primordial chaos domain. How many people yearned for it but couldn't? Today, he had done it. He had directly become a powerhouse at the great primordial chaos level. He didn't think about becoming a eternal primordial chaos powerhouse. He had already accepted his fate and felt that he couldn't do it. However, now that he was a peerless almighty at the great primordial chaos level, it was enough. In this world, how many people possessed almost perfect primordial chaos Tao fruit? They could be counted. In Old Gu's opinion, perhaps he could only wait for Chu Feng to break through. Moreover, it would be a double Tao fruit breakthrough. Let me consolidate a bit, then we'll set off. Old Gu was full of confidence. Old Gu's consolidation lasted until the moon was high in the sky. Chu Feng didn't have any problems, so he waited quietly. However, on a certain mountain, Long Diu was about to go crazy. Stood him up again? He felt the cold wind blowing on the icy mountain peak and looked at the bleak moonlight. He didn't feel good at all. The strange dragon was about to explode. He was very anxious, very uneasy, and even apprehensive. If that De Junior didn't appear this time, how could he explain it to his old brothers? He wouldn't have the face to see anyone. Come on, hurry up and show yourself. King, miss you so much. Long Diu muttered to himself, occasionally wiping away his cold sweat. He didn't even know what kind of mentality he was in. Rather than saying that he was looking forward to revenge, it was better to say that he was looking forward to the appearance of the main character so that he could explain it to his old brothers. Otherwise, he would have no place to hide his face. In the mystic realm, Old Gu finally stood up. His lips were rosy, and his teeth were white. He looked younger than ever. After his strength had skyrocketed, he had also become more confident. His eyes seemed to be condensed from divine lightning. Should we go kill the 3 old monsters of the Yuan tribe first, then deal with the strange dragon? Old Gu asked. It's getting late. Let's go meet the strange dragon first. Otherwise, I'm afraid he'll go crazy. He can't do it again and again, Chu Feng said with a smile. If the strange dragon knew that the De Junior was thinking of him for once, who knew if he would cry bitterly? It was already past midnight, but there was still no sign of Chu Feng. At this moment, the strange dragon's heart was cold. Then, at the same time, he was indignant and about to go berserk. At this time, one of his old brothers suddenly said, "He's here." After hearing this, the strange dragon was immediately awakened. He stood on the mountain peak and gazed into the distance. At the end of the earth, a young man was ethereal and otherworldly under the night moon. He was like a banished immortal as he strolled over. His strides weren't very big, but they seemed to shrink the ground to inches as he rapidly approached. It was none other than Chu Feng. Even if he was burned to ashes, Long Yu would still be able to recognize this De Junior. At this moment, he actually wasn't angry, nor was he thinking about revenge. Instead, he was almost in tears. He said through gritted teeth, King finally showed up. I'm late to the blessing. I wish everyone a happy and healthy Lantern Festival. Chapter 15:15. Long Diu's eyes were brimming with tears. It was hard to describe this feeling. Just to wait for someone, he was actually so tormented. He had waited for 3 whole nights and was stood up again and again. Facing the cold mountain wind and the cold moonlight, he was about to go crazy. Under the bright moonlight, Chu Feng was ethereal and otherworldly. He was dressed in a loose white robe that fluttered in the wind. He quickly approached from the horizon like a stream of light in the dark night. The strange dragon's 3 old brothers were lying in wait at this moment. They had already cut off the path of retreat to ensure that the youth would not escape. "Do you?" From afar, Chu Feng called out intimately. He waved his sleeves and shouted, "I'm your brother Da." The strange dragon was furious. "Do I not know you? I can recognize you even if you turn into ashes. What are you shouting for? Especially now we've already met, and you're still yelling. You're taking advantage of me in front of my old brothers. I'll beat you to death." The wind was strong, and under the snow-white moonlight, sand and pebbles were flying. In the blink of an eye, Chu Feng had come from far away. The old pine trees on the mountain top shook violently and rustled. He ran so fast that even the void around him was distorted. When he reached here, a terrifying sonic boom came from behind him and white mist boiled. "Long time no see, your eyes are red and the corners of your eyes are moist. I didn't misjudge you. You're as sentimental as I am. Good brother." As Chu Feng spoke, he rushed over and gave Longdu a warm hug. It was a warm scene of friends in adversity and old friends reuniting. Whose eyes were moist? Who was crying? Longdu pushed him away. It was simply unbearable. "Don't you know that I want to beat you to death? I'll be moved? I'll cry? What are you thinking?" At this moment, he felt extremely uncomfortable. He had goosebumps all over his body, especially the shoulder that Chu Feng had hugged. It was as if there were caterpillars crawling all over it. He swung his arms with all his might and took a few steps back. He gritted his teeth and said, "Chowda Jidade, you really came? I've traversed thousands of mountains and rivers, despite being hunted down by almighty existences, and even though I'm heavily injured, I still managed to rush here tonight. I'm finally reunited with you." Chu Feng had a fervent expression on his face. "Get lost." Longdu used all his strength to shake his arms. He kept feeling nauseous and disgusted. "This damn Jidade, I want to skin you alive. What are you trying to get close to me for?" However, at this moment, he finally had some confidence. As long as Chu Feng was here, there was nothing he couldn't overcome. Everything was worth it and he could finally deal with him. When he thought of this, he took a deep breath and completely calmed down. He took out a chair from his spatial magic item and sat down. He then took out a jade table and placed a plate of divine mutant fruits on it. They were sparkling and glistening under the moonlight, their fragrance assailing the nostrils. He then brewed a pot of tea, its fragrance rising in spirals. The strange dragon was still putting on airs, which made his old brothers in the dark speechless. Just how much had he been provoked for him to act like this? The bright moon hung high in the sky. Green pine trees covered the mountaintop, and spring water gurgled. It was a harmonious and tranquil scene. "Jidade, do you know your crime?" The strange dragon let out a short shout. This was like an interrogation. He stared intently at Chu Feng from behind the jade table. He could finally vent his resentment. "What crime? Didn't I just make you a scapegoat a few times? Oh right, have you prepared the mutant soil I want?" Chu Feng replied lazily. He didn't want to pretend anymore. He was not going to cooperate with Longdu. He was scared first, then intimidated later. He did not give the strange dragon a chance to enjoy himself. He walked over casually, picked up a divine fruit, and bit into it. Immediately, the bright red juice flowed and glowed. The rich fruit fragrance refreshed the mind and filled the mountain top, intoxicating everyone. "Put it down. Who allowed you to eat it?" The strange dragon was furious. This Jidade was really daring. This was a great nourishment for his body, and now he took it out for show. In the end, this dog didn't regard him as an outsider and dared to snatch it. Where's the mutant soil? Take it out. Chufeng said. What Long Yu didn't expect was that the other party was even more impatient than him. The strange dragon shouted, Dade, you lowly bastard! You made me a scapegoat and stood me up 3 times in a row. You've made this dragon lose face, and now you still dare to be disrespectful to me. You're finished today. What surprised him again was that Chufeng was even more decisive than him. He turned hostile immediately and said, Don't talk nonsense. Hand over the mutant soil. Let me tell you, this isn't a purchase or a transaction. This is extortion, a threat, and a robbery. Damn you, you turned hostile even faster and more thoroughly than this dragon. Are you here to rob me and rob me? Long Yu felt that his lungs were severely lacking oxygen and his stomach was hurting. This was really going too far. Old brothers, come, help me. Let's plant a tree first. Let's plant a human tree on this mountaintop. The strange dragon shouted. He was really angry. How could he vent his anger? He could only attack and beat this Chowda up. He would cripple him, but he couldn't kill him. He would teach him a lesson and torment him slowly. At this moment, Chufeng made the first move. He stretched out a hand to grab him. The two of them could be said to be the boat of friendship that capsized just like that. The strange dragon sneered. He didn't panic at all and was quite calm. He looked at Chufeng and didn't even try to avoid him. What he meant was, what can you do to me? He naturally wasn't afraid. There was a supreme being standing in the pine forest behind him. He had evolved for a long time, and if his strength was powerful and intimidating, he could open his domain. No matter how talented a King Hung was, he wouldn't be enough. Even a celestial venerable couldn't do it. A single slap was enough to slap him to death. Therefore, Long Yu sneered. He was too calm and looked at Chufeng as if he was looking at an idiot. The corners of his mouth curled up and his face was full of disdain. There was even a hint of arrogance. Who am I? Long Yu, who dares to touch me? This was a telepathic message that mocked Chufeng. In such a short instant, he didn't have time to speak. His mouth wasn't that fast, but he wanted to ridicule Chufeng. Therefore, he used soul light waves to mock him. A light screen appeared in front of him. It was like a sparkling and translucent walk that trapped him there. That was the Supreme Being's domain. It covered him and made him impenetrable. What King Hung? What celestial venerable? He absolutely couldn't penetrate or shake him. They were just a joke in front of this immemorial domain. Moreover, a large hand appeared in the sky. It was spotlessly white and congealed as it moved to cover Chufeng's head. It wanted to plant a tree and slap Chufeng into the ground. Of course, this process was bound to be very painful. It was like using a hammer to hit a nail and pounding a person into the ground. And Long Yu had already given it a name, Man-Planting Tree. Everything was so beautiful. Long Yu squinted his eyes and had a smile on his face. He felt that he could finally vent his resentment. It was so carefree. Moreover, he actually had a kind of feeling at this moment as if he had climbed to the peak of his life. He knew that this was because he had been repressed and angered badly recently. Now, he could finally release it to his heart's content. Unfortunately, wishes were beautiful and visions were beautiful, but the reality was so unbearable that it made one sad. He felt an earthquake with a bang. The entire mountaintop was shaking violently and the mountain cracked. He almost fell to the ground. What shocked him the most was that the sparkling and translucent walk that covered his body, that layer of immemorial domain, was actually penetrated by someone. After that, he saw a hand pressing down on his head. The strange dragon was dumbfounded. Then, he felt intense pain. His head had been slapped. Although it wasn't a fatal blow, the pain made him jump high. Without even thinking, his head almost split open. At this moment, at a speed visible to the naked eye, a huge bump appeared on his head, swelling up very high. Ouch! Long Yu's snot and tears flowed down his face. It was really King painful. Then, he saw that big hand come down again and slap his head again. Another big bump bulged, symmetrical on both sides. It made him feel like his head was about to explode. It was as if two very thick horns had grown on his head. What was most unbearable was that after Chu Feng gave him 2 slaps, he even patted his head lightly a few times. It was as if he was going to kill him by touching his head. Long Yu was shocked and angry at the same time. Was his old brother distracted? That was the immemorial light curtain. It should be invulnerable. Why didn't it protect him? He let out a miserable cry and roared with soul light, "Old brother, I didn't guard against it. Don't be distracted. Even if you're facing a puny Prince Heng, you still have to pay attention. Don't kill me." A puny Prince Heng? After hearing this, Chu Feng gave him 2 more slaps. The strange dragon was in so much pain that tears streamed down his face. He didn't want to cry, but that dog's hit punched him in the nose. The physiological pain made him cry uncontrollably. But that dog's hit was still trying to persuade him. Don't cry. Old brother, kill him. He's just a puny Prince Heng. Long Diu transmitted his voice crazily. He was really about to explode. Today, he was going to sit on the mountain peak and look down on the prisoner. He was going to interrogate this Chowda and dig out all his secret. But in the end, he was beaten up. The difference was too great. A puny Prince Heng? Behind him, that almighty being was speechless. Didn't he see the reality? How could he look down on his opponent like this? This master could fight against almighty beings head-on. That almighty being had already made his move at the first moment. He originally wanted to plant a human tree, but when his hand smashed down, it was directly stopped by Chu Feng's other hand. A clap of thunder rang out in midair. As an almighty being, he was naturally ridiculously powerful. He immediately knew that this youth was a great enemy. How was this some Prince Heng? He was unfathomable and not easy to deal with. The strange dragon waited for a moment. Snot and tears flowed for a while before he finally saw the reality. There was a big hand rumbling in midair, but it just couldn't descend. It was blocked by Chowda with a single hand. The strange dragon was shocked. This was the first time he had lost his composure like this. He wanted to curse out loud. What was going on? This abnormal G-Dade had the ability to fight against almighty beings. Was there still justice in this world? How many years had it been? He was just a little brat, yet he had actually reached this step. He was evolving even faster than him, a heavenly dragon bloodline possessor. This was too shocking. Old brothers, come out and capture this evildoer. He has the secret to becoming an ultimate evolved being. Long Yu didn't dare to call out openly, but he was secretly shouting for the other 2 almighty beings. At this point, he was really panicking. It wouldn't be good if he fell into the hands of this little thief. He frantically called for the other 2 brothers to attack. In reality, there was no need for him to call for help. The other 2 had already appeared and threatened him. They stared coldly at Chu Feng. If it wasn't for the fact that they were afraid of harming him, they would have already killed him. However, they were also prepared to act. As almighty beings, 3 of them appeared at the same time. If they erupted in an instant, they should be able to save Long Diu and suppress this youth. You are a great heavenly venerable, even close to venerable Heng? One of the almighty beings spoke, his heart trembling. What? Long Diu's eyes widened. He simply didn't dare to believe his ears. What did he just hear? Chowda G-Dade, not Prince Heng anymore? Had he crossed another great realm? Had the heavens opened their eyes? He screamed wildly in his heart. Then, he was frightened again, feeling uneasy about his situation. At the same time, he was even more worried for his own brother. Long Diu panicked inwardly, feeling that things weren't good. This little thief had always been insolent. Back then, when he first met G-Dade, he saw the junior surpassing the senior in a great battle. Now, he wasn't far from the almighty being level. Would his old brother be able to stop him? The strange dragon was extremely uneasy and actually felt his blood run cold. He feared that something would happen to his brother, that Chowda would beat him to death. At this time, there was an undercurrent and a strange fluctuation. Right above the night sky, a person appeared, bathed in moonlight. It was as if he had descended from the moon. Naturally, it was old Gu. When he saw that the other side's almighty beings had appeared, he didn't hide anymore. Under the bright moon, he broke through the air and arrived. At this time, he was acting old, making himself look like he was around 30 years old. It was because he was now a true expert at the peak of the great origin realm, surpassing his previous life. He felt that if he still had his rosy lips, white teeth, delicate and weak appearance, that would truly be a bit shameful. He wouldn't have any prestige, and even he himself felt embarrassed. As a result, he recovered his past style, the return of an ancient prehistoric being. At this time, the three almighty beings naturally sensed it immediately. They suddenly raised their heads, looking at old Gu. One of them was moved, saying, "Are you surnamed Gu?" Old Gu was astonished, but he still nodded and said, "Yes." He wasn't that scary. So what if someone recognized him? His older brother Li Su was still alive. Now, even if an old monster revived, they would have to think twice before doing anything to him. "Ah, it's true, we might be relatives," that almighty being said in shock. At this moment, the strange dragon was shocked. Chu Feng's helper was related to his brother? Perhaps there would be a turn for the better, and he would be completely safe and sound. He had been nervous to death just now, even a bit scared. But now, the situation seemed to have taken a turn for the better. The strange dragon knew that this old brother of his had lived for an extremely long time, and was the oldest among his sworn brothers. His origins were incomparably mysterious, and his seniority was ridiculously high for ordinary people. It was unimaginable. When he thought of this, the strange dragon couldn't help but laugh. That middle-aged man in the sky was most likely a descendant of his old brother. If that was the case, then not only did he escape unscathed, but he could also make Chu Feng and that middle-aged man in the sky address him as elder? The strange dragon had been scared to death just now, but now he was laughing. However, reality was cruel, and it was the opposite of the strange dragon's guess. This old man is Gu Chunhai. At this time, old Gu in the sky first announced his name. He also wanted to know what kind of old friend he had encountered. "Ah!" When Long Diu's old brother heard this, he shouted loudly, and then directly knelt down. He was incomparably emotional as he shouted, "Granduncle! IF*CK." No one knew what Long Diu was feeling at this moment. At this time, his eyes were brimming with hot tears. Chapter 15-16. Long Diu's eyes were boiling hot. He felt like crying. Not only had he fallen into Ji-Dade's hands, but his old brother was even calling this thief's friend by his name? Granduncle! F*CK. At this time, Long Diu really wanted to curse out loud. Why was it that every time a beautiful vision appeared in his heart, it would be cruelly shattered? Just now, he was still thinking that his old brother had met a relative. Through blood and familial relations, he could make the man in the moonlight and Ji-Dade call him a nice name. In the end, his old brother was calling the other party granduncle first. How could he endure this? In terms of seniority, wouldn't he have to call that person and Chu Feng granduncle as well? This chaotic life, this miserable seniority, The shadow in Long Diu's heart was boundless. He really wanted to ask the heavens, "What are you trying to do?" He was speechless and didn't want to say a single word. At this time, the other two powerhouses were also shocked. Their sworn brother, the person who had lived for the longest time, was actually calling the person in the sky granduncle. At this time, they were also in disarray. Could it be that an ultimate expert had come? Chu Feng was also speechless. Did they just happen to meet the old man's descendant? However, the situation didn't seem too bad. Things were getting interesting. He glanced at the strange dragon. How was this seniority going to be discussed? In the sky, the old man was also quite shaken. How many years had passed, and now a descendant had appeared. He was someone from prehistoric times. According to reason, it was difficult for him to meet people from the same era, let alone a relative he had met back then. However, he was also quite calm. He immediately calmed down and became even more aloof. He put on the appearance of a senior who had achieved the Tao and had the demeanor of an immortal. Just like that, the bright moon hung high in the sky. The old man floated down as if he had flown down from the moon. He descended on the ground with an otherworldly aura. "Who are you? I don't remember having a descendant like you," the old man calmly asked. The powerhouse kneeling on the ground said with a trembling voice, "I am Chi Feng. When I was very young, I followed my grandfather to see you several times. My grandfather is Chi Ming, a close friend of yours back then." Chi Ming. The old man sank into distant memories. He was disappointed and frustrated. He knew whose descendant this was. Chi Ming was indeed a good friend of his. In the past, he had followed him to the battlefield and fought alongside Li Su. He was his good brother. Those people from back then, those events, all appeared in old Gu's mind, causing him to feel bitter and at a loss. It was because many people had died, some died in battle, and there were even some who passed away in meditation over the years. "Where's your grandfather?" asked old Gu. Back then, after Li Su's death, Chi Ming brought his family and went into seclusion. That was because, after the great calamity, everyone was in a state of panic. Even the banner-bearers had died and disappeared. Who wasn't afraid? The surviving troops all scattered. My grandfather passed away. He passed away in meditation during the ancient era. Chi Feng said softly. His grandfather didn't die because of an accident. It was just that his lifespan had come to an end. Even if he was an Empyrean, surviving from the prehistoric times to the ancient times was already considered very astonishing. I remember that back then, I gave him quite a few great medicines, all of them able to prolong his life, but he still didn't reach this day. Old Gu released a light sigh, feeling a bit emotional. His former close friend could no longer be seen again. He couldn't last until this era. It made him feel regret, powerless and helpless. Old Gu didn't come back to his senses for a long time. He was nostalgic and sentimental. How many old friends could he still see in this life? They might all have died in the passage of time. Then, he looked towards Chi Feng. This child was quite famous back then, or else his grandfather wouldn't have brought him to meet a group of old friends. His aptitude and talent were extremely astonishing. In that era, a few old friends had touched his muscles and bones, all of them sighing in admiration. Who would have thought that after so many years, the child of the past was already growing old? However, Chi Feng becoming a great being still made old Gu feel quite gratified. He was much stronger than his grandfather Chi Feng. "Good child." Old Gu helped him up, patted his shoulder, and said, "I see that you're a bit weak. Follow me in the future, I have some great medicines in my medicine garden. I'll strive to make your blood energy flourish once more, and you can even try to touch the Tao fruit of great origin." "Many thanks, great uncle." Chi Feng was moved. Being able to advance to the origin realm, and become a great being, was already his limit. Although it was quite impressive, he could no longer see the path of evolution in front of him. Now, this great uncle actually wanted to help him, which naturally made him very excited. How could his grandfather's close friend, Li Su's brother, not have a powerful foundation? The other two great beings were also shocked. At their realm, they had already exhausted their potential, and their blood energy was dried up. How could they talk about evolution? The path had long since been cut off. Now, someone was going to cut off the path for his old brother? Great uncle. The other two great beings also spoke up. They were incomparably respectful, and they bowed solemnly and seriously. Longdew saw this scene, and his entire body felt unwell. He froze here, not knowing what to say. The helpers he had found had all betrayed him. How could he endure calling the other party nice words? What should he do? Should he also follow suit? The strange dragon couldn't stand it at all. This was an unlucky year. How could he encounter such a vexing matter? Especially now that G-Dade was still patting him on the head. Perhaps it could be said in another way, because Chu Feng wasn't using any force, but was very benevolent. With a smile, he gently stroked his head. This made him even more unable to stand it. "You're so benevolent. Are you trying to be my elder in advance?" Longdew was scared. "Little you, don't be afraid," Chu Feng said gently. Longdew was petrified, and then he was about to explode with rage. This was a direct blow to him? Big U had become Little U. F***ck your second uncle. The degeneration was indeed not a good thing. Longdew was incomparably resentful. But what could he say? He dared not say anything even though he was angry. His 3 old brothers had already called Old Gu great-uncle. There was no way he could continue living like this. "You're at the great primordial chaos realm, a true great being?" Chi Feng was shocked. He already knew what kind of Tao fruit Old Gu had obtained. Since ancient times, how many great beings had achieved great primordial chaos Tao fruit? They were too rare, and these beings were all terrifyingly powerful. The most important thing was that Old Gu was currently exuding a flourishing life force. He was full of vitality and didn't seem like a prehistoric old man at all. This made Chi Feng's eyes burn with passion. He made up his mind to follow this great uncle. Old Gu was very direct. He introduced Chu Feng's identity and told them that this was a brother he had gotten to know in this life. "Let's talk about our own things. I'll still call you guys seniors." Chu Feng immediately spoke to avoid the 3 great beings' awkwardness. These people had lived for a very long time. If he really had them call him little uncle, the 3 of them would probably feel uncomfortable and wouldn't be willing. Moreover, the 3 of them had originally come to stop him. "Little brother, you're really amazing. You're already close to the eternal venerable realm?" A great being sighed. "To be more precise, I'm close to the dual eternal venerable realm. I can already contend against great beings and even directly kill them." Old Gu told them the truth. At this moment, the 3 great beings were shaken. They simply didn't dare to believe it. The eternal venerable realm was already a legend. Since ancient times, not many people had succeeded. This person was actually going to achieve dual eternal venerable realm Tao fruit? The most important thing was that he was still so young. "That's why my brother's future is destined to be extraordinary. However, the process will also be very difficult. He needs a great being's mutant soil to evolve." Old Gu was quite direct. He explained the inside story and wanted to ask for the great being's assistance. The 3 great beings had long since put away their hostility. They had karma with each other, so they were considered to be on the same side. Moreover, they were facing a fierce person with a great origin Tao fruit. Who would dare oppose them? Needless to say, Old Gu alone could sweep through many great beings. In the eyes of the 3 great beings, whether it was Old Gu or Chu Feng, they were both worthy of investment. They were beings that needed to be revered in the future. What a pity! I gave the mutant soil I accumulated to my disciple, but he failed to evolve and died. Chi Feng sighed. Even the most powerful of celestial venerables would find it extremely difficult to reach the origin Tao realm. His disciple was quite stunning, but he still died in recent times. However, Chi Feng also said that he still had more than half of the mutant soil. "All right." Old Gu nodded. Although it was less than a portion, it was still not bad. The other 2 great beings didn't disappoint. Each of them had a portion of the mutant soil. In a short while, the 3 great beings had given Chu Feng 2.5 portions. This was quite an astonishing harvest. Look, little you, we're talking about our own things. I won't call you grandnephew, we're still brothers. Chu Feng let go of Long Diu and patted him on the shoulder in a very affectionate manner, drawing closer to him. He knew that Long Diu was wealthier than his old brothers. Who knew how many treasures the strange dragon had prepared for this generation? As for the three great beings, their paths had already been cut off. They'd long since given up on ascension. Each of them had decayed, waiting for the curtain to fall. They didn't have any initiative, nor had they accumulated any treasures. Long Diu ground his teeth. We're talking about our own things, and you're still calling me little you? I really want to beat you to death. At this moment, Chu Feng suddenly turned his head and said to the three great beings, I'm a person who clearly distinguishes between gratitude and grudges. If others treat me well, I'll treat them well. Seniors, I have something here that will be of great use to you. He took out 3 jade boxes. After they were opened, dazzling golden light immediately shone like 3 suns blooming. A rich life force surged out, incomparably shocking. The soul flower could strengthen the decaying soul and extend one's lifespan. The 3 of them gasped in shock. This gift was incomparably precious to them. It was a life-prolonging medicine that they needed the most. Long Diu revealed a strange expression. This Jade actually had such a thing? And he was so willing to give it away. Of course, he wasn't jealous. Back then, he'd even eaten a complete 33-layer heaven's grass. Now, he was full of vitality and his lifespan was too abundant. He didn't need these things. Little you, do you have any mutant soil? Chu Feng asked with a smile. No. Long Diu flatly refused. His 3 old brothers immediately revealed strange expressions. They knew that Dalong definitely had extra mutant soil in his hands. He was too well prepared. Is that so? And here I was thinking of giving you a big gift. Sigh. Chu Feng sighed. Several jade boxes appeared in his hands. After opening them, they were all resplendent fruit. Some were filled with chaotic qi and had no attributes, while some had the silhouette of a heavenly dragon sealed within. This is the bloodline fruit? Long Diu's eyes immediately turned red. He could no longer shift his gaze away. The corners of his eyes were about to split. This shocked him and made him yearn for it. Qi Feng even cried out involuntarily, "This is the fruit of the ancient tree that ancestrally obtained back then?" To be more precise, it fell into the hands of the martial madman. We can be considered to have snatched food from the tiger's mouth. We intercepted it halfway, Old Gu said. The few of them were shocked. The bloodline fruit could purify a living being's bloodline, optimizing and restoring the body's strongest bloodline. It was incomparably shocking. Over the long years, many races had intermarried with each other. This meant that many living beings actually had various bloodline fragments hidden within their bodies. If one chose the right bloodline fruit, it would naturally be able to fiercely enhance the strongest bloodline. It could even be said to be far superior to the ancestral bloodline. Long Diu no longer felt sad or wronged. In an instant, his attitude changed. He patted his chest and told Chu Feng that he had 2 more pieces of origin-grade mutant soil, and he could give them to him. In the outside world, almighty mutant soil was definitely a priceless treasure. No orthodoxy would exchange it for a true strategic resource. However, the people before him were either almighty or had enough resources. To them, this kind of mutant soil couldn't compare to the soul flower or bloodline fruit at all. After a while, Long Diu directly ate an elemental bloodline fruit. Chaotic energy pervaded the air, and he was incomparably excited and intoxicated. Delicious! As he ate the fruit, he happily opened his spatial artifact, took out 2 pieces of origin-grade mutant soil, and gave them to Chu Feng. His 3 old brothers were speechless. "Weren't you so stubborn? Why did you compromise so quickly? You even called it delicious. Little you, we're still brothers. Back then, when I picked the bloodline fruit, I kept thinking about you, so I specially left some for you. At that time, I even wanted to form the Four Beauties team, said Chu Feng. Call me Du. Let's not talk about the black pot anymore. We're still brothers. Long Du looked extremely generous. In just a short while, several almighty experts had come together. This was definitely an incomparably powerful force. They set off that night without any delay, heading straight for the three lone almighties of the Yuan clan. They were going to destroy all of them. This was simply unstoppable. There would be no suspense. The moonlight was gentle, and its light was like water, illuminating the forest. The group headed straight for the first training ground. Boom! The next moment, before Chu Feng could act, Old Gu, a great expert at the origin grade, directly punched through the mountain gate and killed his way in. The other three almighties sealed the void, cutting off all escape routes. This Yuan clan almighty couldn't even send out a rescue signal. He was killed in a flash, and his blood dyed the training ground red. It's not challenging. I think after killing the lone almighties of the Yuan clan, we can choose a more difficult one, such as the demon race, the quasi-immortal race, or the spirit race, said Old Gu. This isn't a good idea to start a war. How about this? I think Brother Da isn't young anymore. You and I can go to the Zhou clan, the Ji clan, and the Li clan together and help him arrange a marriage. We don't need to attack their mountain gates for foreign lands anymore. Marriage with one of the top 10 ancient races will definitely be a big deal. They will train Brother Da wholeheartedly, said Long Du. His attitude had changed too quickly. He was no longer sad and resentful. He even started to help out. Chapter 15-17. Stay on the side. Chu Feng didn't want to listen to his teasing. The strange dragon didn't have any good ideas at all. I'm doing this for your own good. Long Du's smile didn't look like a good person. Chu Feng didn't waste words with him and directly stroked his head. He was calm and resolute, and the strange dragon couldn't resist even if he wanted to. Long Du was furious. He wasn't even a heavenly venerable yet, so how could he resist? The moonlight was like water, and the entire training ground was covered in holy mist. It was hazy and tranquil. If it weren't for the blood of an almighty being dyeing this place red, it would truly be sacred. The group cleaned up the battlefield and opened the underground palace in search of treasures. There were piles of ancient books, many of which were rare and secret. Some of them were related to the Yuan race's techniques, and there were also books from other races. How could an almighty being's collection be ordinary? Most importantly, there was a portion of primordial-grade mutant soil that emitted a green radiance under the moonlight. It was surging with auspicious energy and contained astonishing energy. There's only one portion. Chu Feng was regretful. The others were speechless. Even the old man didn't want to talk to him. Did he think this was cabbage that could be found everywhere? Be content. If it weren't for the fact that this old man's lifespan is running out and he wants to train an heir, he probably wouldn't have been able to save up this portion. This kind of soil is really hard to find. Almighty Chi Feng sighed. According to him, this portion of primordial-grade soil would require an almighty being to accumulate over a long period of time. It would take tens of thousands of years to collect it. Look carefully and see if there's any cosmos-grade soil, Chu Feng said. Of course, he didn't really need to find one portion. He just wanted to see if his luck was good enough. It would be enough if he could find half a kilogram or even a few taels. At this moment, even the old man rolled his eyes. There was no need to even think about it. This kind of declining almighty being wasn't qualified to have it. Only top almighty beings from supreme orthodoxies like the Buddhist race or the Hing race, who are young and powerful and most importantly, have the potential to break through to the next realm, are qualified to come into contact with cosmos-grade soil. Chi Feng sighed. Even an ancient powerhouse like him, who had lived from the prehistoric era until now, had never seen a great cosmos-grade mutant soil. It was because this type of soil was too rare. Even with the entire clan's strength, It would be difficult to gather 1 or 2 portions even after spending half a great era. Perhaps only the Dao clan, the Li clan, and the other powerful clans in the Yang realm possessed it. It was too rare and precious. This was a material that was more important than anything else. Chu Feng felt a headache coming on. As long as he thought about his future path, he felt a little hopeless. The seed in the stone jar could eat too much. It was simply an earth-swallowing beast, a bottomless pit. He still had a way to deal with the primordial chaos soil, but what about the great universe soil? Especially when the amount he needed was so huge. Unless he ransacked the top 10 orthodoxies, or completely emptied out the top 10 famed mountains in the Yang realm. However, was this realistic? Chu Feng couldn't help but look up to the sky and sigh. He had a premonition that the road ahead was too difficult. How could he cross the natural moat and continue the hopeless broken road? The old man said, "What are you sighing for? It's only been one night, and we've already harvested 5.5 portions of primordial chaos soil. One can't be too virtuous." Long Diu was full of resentment. The monstrous dragon had contributed 2 portions, and his sworn brother had given him 2.5 portions. Now, he had harvested another portion here. This kind of accumulation speed was too frightening. If news of this were to spread, the entire Yang realm would be in an uproar. "I still have 2 portions of soil outside. Let's go and harvest them quickly," Chu Feng said. He had long since viewed the other 2 Yuan clans' Dao rites as meat on his plate. After midnight, not a sound could be heard from the world. Chu Feng's group traversed the void. Together with several powerhouses and a special expert like Chu Feng, who was close to the dual eternal venerables, they could be considered a heavenly group. How many people could stop such a combination? Unless the rotting great universe creatures of the Yuan clan appeared, the experts who had established their abodes outside were destined to meet a tragic end. The second Dao rites were very quiet. A pure white bamboo forest flowed with a holy radiance. The scenery here was quite beautiful. There was a sparkling blue lake in the middle of the white bamboo forest. A fragrant aroma assailed the nostrils, and within the lake was the primordial chaos lotus that powerhouses needed. It was a rare longevity herb in this world. The old man, the monstrous dragon, and Chu Feng were relatively calm. They were still young and didn't care much about such things. The other 3 powerhouses emitting the aura of decay were different. Their eyes glowed green in the night, and they were incomparably excited. They hadn't expected to find such a harvest here. The 2 purple plants were both primordial chaos lotuses. Each of them had a lotus head that was nearing maturity. One could see that the lotus seeds were like little purple suns, filling the air with a sweet fragrance. "There's something wrong with this lake. It's formed from the flesh and essence of living beings. I knew it. How could an ordinary place grow these lotuses of life?" The old man was moved. There were no weaklings here. They were all very strong. They glanced at the lake and immediately understood what was going on. The lake wasn't big, but it contained a dense aura of life. Every day, a large amount of flesh and blood had to be poured into it, including those of powerful beasts and powerful human evolvers. There were countless skeletons at the bottom of the lake, numbering in the tens of thousands. Most importantly, there were no mortals among them. All of them were beings with high levels of evolution. That was because the stronger they were, the higher their life level was and the more essence they contained. If they were only mortals, perhaps millions or even tens of millions of them wouldn't be able to produce such an effect. They deserved to die. Even the monstrous dragon's tone was cold. His sense of justice had erupted. He saw the corpses of several barbaric dragons that had been dead for many years. "Who is it?" An old man appeared like a ghost and looked at the group in alarm. The domains he had laid down were actually ineffective. These people entered the secret realm he had isolated from the outside world as though they had entered an uninhabited realm. Just like that, they arrived soundlessly. This kind of lotus watered with life couldn't see the light of day. No matter how powerful the Yuan race was, they couldn't cover the sky with one hand. Every race has an agreement that old and dying experts can't strip other beings of their life essence just because their lifespans are about to run out. You actually dare to do this? You're poisoning the world! The old man shouted. This was a consensus that had been reached since prehistoric times. Otherwise, the world would have been in chaos long ago. If they didn't strictly abide by this rule and allowed the old monsters to run amok and strip away the essence of all living beings, the Yang realm would become a land of death and a desolate cemetery. The Yuan race old man was thin and emitting a decaying aura. His life essence was dried up and his soul light was dim. It was obvious that he wouldn't live for long. No wonder he went to extremes and didn't hesitate to slaughter evolvers to nurture the lotus of life. Who are you? How dare you intrude the Yuan race's secret realm? He shouted. It was clear that he was only putting on a brave front. At the origin realm, how could he not see how terrifying these people were? Good Yuan race, how many sins have you committed? How many people have you killed? The Yuan race is known as an inextinguishable orthodoxy and a family that has existed for more than one great era. What have you done? Do you want to face the world and let everyone see this place? Shouted an almighty expert. Boom. The old man released energy fluctuations and was about to attack. As a great origin realm expert, a peak existence among almighty experts, he would definitely be able to suppress this old man. Wait! Chu Feng stopped him. This time, he wanted to personally take action to test his own strength. You're courting death. The Yuan race old man roared. His entire body shone and the sky was filled with runes that illuminated the void. He was sending a message to the outside world. No, I've already sealed this place, Chu Feng calmly informed. This battle was unavoidable. The Yuan race old man risked his life. The dried blood energy in his body was activated. Runes seemed to be cast from metal as they branded themselves in the world. He was absorbing the great world's Tao patterns and merging them with his body. He wanted to kill Chu Feng. Even if he died, he wanted to drag one of them down with him. Especially after he learned of Chu Feng's identity, he wanted to kill him even more. Boom. The battle was quite intense. Chu Feng used the 7 wonderful treasures technique. 5 beams of light appeared behind him, humming like 5 immortal swords. They were incomparably sharp. If all 7 kinds of rare materials were gathered, then 7 beams of immortal light would rush into the heavens. And in Chu Feng's simulations, there would even be 9 colored beams of light piercing through the heavens. At this time, he was fighting a great expert head-on, causing this place to rumble. The great world's Tao patterns were all broken by him. Countless runes bloomed between the two of them and energy surged. This battle was extremely shocking. Chu Feng's dual supreme Tao fruits made the Yuan race origin realm expert bleed from his nose and mouth, his body in tatters. The surrounding people stared blankly and were incomparably shocked. This was especially true for Longyu. He forcefully swallowed his saliva and was inwardly shocked. This dog thing, this degeneration, was too powerful. It made his hair stand on end. He sighed. In the future, he really couldn't face them. He had to be proud of the 4 great beauties and couldn't rebel against Chu Feng. Rumble! The 5 colored beams of light behind Chu Feng turned into 5 immortal swords, each releasing different runes. They were incomparably resplendent and formed a sword wheel that directly swept out. A great expert was killed. Even his soul light couldn't escape. He was destroyed just like that. However, Chu Feng was a bit dissatisfied. There was actually a gap between him and Old Gu after a fierce battle. What kind of person was Old Gu? Even his eyelashes were empty. He instantly knew what Chu Feng was thinking and his expression immediately became unsightly. He said unhappily, "I'm a great origin realm expert, okay? How many have been there since ancient times? You're only a dual Tao realm great heavenly sovereign. Although you're close to eternal venerable, you're still not one. There's a great realm between us. Old Goose silently cursed. Although you're close, you're still a dual eternal venerable. If you can stand side by side with me now, I'll just bang my head against the wall and die. It's too embarrassing. However, he still felt a sense of crisis. Chu Feng's evolution was too fast. He was about to become a dual eternal venerable and even a origin realm expert. At that time, he definitely wouldn't be his opponent. There's only half a portion of Origin Realm Earth? Chu Feng was quite disappointed. In any case, he was a powerhouse from the Yuan race who had accumulated his entire life and was about to end. Yet, he only had this little bit of Earth? The others wanted to spit at him again. You've seen too much almighty Earth in one night. You really don't take this kind of strategic mutant Earth seriously, do you? Although Chu Feng was disappointed, Qi Feng and the other two powerhouses were stirred up and excited. Although the Life Lotus had caused great disasters and killed a great number of evolvers during its growth, its effects were indeed astonishing. This wasn't caused by Qi Feng and the others. Therefore, the three powerhouses didn't feel that it was inappropriate when they picked and ate the lotus seed. Although there were still a few more years until they finally matured, they couldn't wait any longer. The Yuan race had lost a powerhouse, so they would discover the shocking changes here sooner or later. The purple lotus seeds were like little suns. They were all trembling as they were evenly divided by the three powerhouses. This would absolutely prolong their lifespans by many years. First came the soul flower and then came the life lotus. This was the beginning of a turning point in their lives, bringing them endless possibilities. Soon after, they slaughtered their way to the third Tao right. In the end, they found nothing. The Yuan race's powerhouse had returned to his clan because he had received an urgent summons. Something big had happened. In truth, many great clans and imperishable orthodoxies were shaken at this moment. Between heaven and earth, decrees descended and illuminated the void. They transformed into rune imprints that appeared within the ancestral palaces of the Buddhist race, Zhou race, Tao race, and Ji race. The era of the Yang realm's great unification has arrived. An elder muttered to himself in incomparable shock. So much so that the heavens were about to be unified. Chu Feng and the others finished off the third Tao right that very night and obtained another portion of Origin Realm Earth. However, they couldn't kill that powerhouse. Is it enough for you to ascend to the dual eternal revered realm? The old man asked. However, Chu Feng had a shadow in his heart. He was afraid that it wouldn't be enough this time and felt that it would be safer to find two more portions. He was afraid that something unexpected would happen again and he would be stuck halfway through. I can guarantee with my life that it's enough, the old man said. This doesn't make sense. When the strange dragon found out that Chu Feng needed so much Origin Realm Earth to ascend to the dual eternal venerables, his face turned green. No wonder the degeneration was so powerful. It's normal. I'm only close to the dual eternal venerables. I'm still some distance away from the Origin Tao fruit, Chu Feng said humbly. However, these words made people want to beat him to death. Don't tell me that you'll be able to defeat the rotting cosmos' old monsters when you become a great Origin Realm evolver. Long Diu was suspicious. I'll work hard, Chu Feng said. The strange dragon. In truth, he really wanted to say, would he die if he didn't pretend? He really wanted to beat the degeneration to death. The lands of the Yang realm were no longer calm. The moment the rosy dawn rose, many old monsters were so shocked that they were restless. In their ancestral palaces, supreme runes appeared and declared some kind of will. The Yang realm is going to be unified, an old monster said over and over again while trembling. This morning, even Chu Feng and the others knew. Even though they didn't come from the imperishable orthodoxy and didn't receive the decree, they still heard about it. That was because the impact of this matter was too great. The news had spread. What exactly is the situation? We have to understand clearly. This is a general trend. We can't go against it and have to go with the flow, The old man said. The orthodoxy ranked at the top of the top 10 races will definitely know the truth. We need to ask them, the almighty Qifeng said. This place isn't too far from the Zhou clan. I'll go find someone to inquire about it, Qifeng said. He wanted to see Lady Shi. It had been a long time. He should go find this old friend. He had always wanted to see her. Now, he had enough strength and could protect himself in the Yang realm. He could go anywhere in the world. Chapter 15:18. The radiant morning glow sprinkled on the surface of the sea like a large expanse of gold. The golden glow spread along with the undulations of the sea. The golden glow was everywhere, and there was a rich vitality rippling. This was an inland sea. Qifeng was making preparations to go to the Zhou clan. Zhou Shi's clan was known as the sixth clan in the Yang realm. They were second only to the Heng clan, the Buddhist clan, and the Dao clan, and the most ancient orthodoxies. Their strength was truly terrifying. Their Dao field was located in the depths of this inland sea. Immortal mountains rose and fell, and islands floated in the air, bathing in the immortal rain that had been flowing since prehistoric times. You guys wait in the open sea. Otherwise, we'll go together. Those who don't know might think we're going to attack the Zhou clan, said Qifeng. No matter where it was, several primordial chaos experts traveling together would cause great wave. Even a prehistoric family could be destroyed by several primordial chaos lifeforms if they were not careful. For example, the humanoid sovereign clan, the Mo clan. Back then, Qifeng and the strange dragon were wanted all over the world. The enraged strange dragon had once asked a few old brothers to attack and destroy the Mo clan's external mountain gate. Of course, the Mo clan was far inferior to the sixth orthodoxy in the world. Oh my, why do I feel like something's wrong? My whole body is burning up, said Longdu. He had eaten the attributeless bloodline fruit with primal chaos substance in the latter half of the night and had been in the process of slowly transforming. Now, this sublimation of life had accelerated. When the sun rose and all living things awakened, his body's activity reached its peak. Ah! Longdu screamed. Even he himself hadn't expected that he would actually let out a beast-like roar. It was quite miserable. His whole body was covered in blood and it was actually cracked. The others were all astonished. Even Qifeng and the old man were moved and felt that it was strange. One had to know that this was an attributeless bloodline fruit, not the special fruit containing the heavenly dragon shadow. It shouldn't be so intense. Senior De, is this fruit you gave me real? Longdu trembled. His whole body was dripping with blood, and it was about to fall apart. Look at me, I'm so simple and pure. Don't I look like a good person? Qifeng realized that the strange dragon was still guarding against him and didn't trust him. It's over. You really are trying to kill me. The strange dragon rolled on the ground in pain. What do you mean? Qifeng's face darkened as he looked down at him. Because you are indeed not a good person. Don't you want to tell me that this is a normal operation? You want to kill me. Longdu looked incomparably indignant. Qifeng broke the dragon's bones and tendons. At the same time, he started to doubt his life. Did he really not look like a good person? What kind of eyes did this weird dragon have? It was obvious that the strange dragon was not faking it. Its entire body was twitching and rolling on the ground. Blood dyed the ground red, and its body was shrinking. Its bones were cracking and breaking. This was a little ridiculous, it shouldn't be like this. Even the old man was a bit apprehensive. This dragon wouldn't die, right? What went wrong? Longdu's 3 old brothers were all panicking. They had come from prehistoric times together. How could they watch him die? Uncle, this transformation is not normal. No matter how tyrannical the bloodline fruit is, it shouldn't be able to turn his body into such a mess and break all his bones, right? Qifeng was anxious. If it wasn't for the fact that he had great trust in the old man, he would have attacked Qifeng. At this time, the sun rose from the east and rose higher and higher. Golden rays scattered down from the sky, illuminating Longdeyu in an even more miserable state. His body was covered in cracks and stained with blood. He transformed into a strange dragon. Part of his body was pitch black, while the other part was pure white. It was as if yin and yang had condensed into one. This was the astonishing dragon body that he had evolved in this world. But it rolled on the ground, stirring up boundless waves in the sea as its wings flapped. However, the next moment blood splattered everywhere. With a crack sound, his wings were actually broken, and his body fell off. Big dragon! The old brothers cried out in alarm. This was too tragic. No evolution could cause a body to break. Something must have happened. At this moment, even Chu Feng was suspicious. Could it be that the fruit had been preserved for too long and had mutated? Or perhaps it had been corroded by some inauspicious thing. Palipala! All the bones in Longdeyu's body collapsed as if they had exploded, almost turning into powder. His dragon body lay there, almost like a dough, gradually flattening. The three powerhouses were about to rush over, but the old man stopped them. Don't be anxious. I didn't sense any inauspicious matter. Moreover, although he is very miserable, the activity of the cells in his body has increased. Let's wait and see. As for Chu Feng, he temporarily didn't have the right to speak. The three powerhouses were all suspicious that there was something wrong with his fruit. 1. The void trembled slightly. The scales all over the strange dragon's body exploded, and blood splattered everywhere. Next, the dragon's claws broke off, and his body shrunk continuously. Then, the scales, claws, horns, and skin all fell off. Big dragon, don't die. Hold on. At this time, the three powerhouses couldn't bear it anymore. Chi Feng rushed over and channeled his essence energy to help prolong his life. In an instant, Longdeyu became a pile of flesh and blood. It was very indistinct, and it was almost impossible to tell what species he was. It was truly a bit miserable. I really didn't do it on purpose. I definitely didn't want to harm you. Chu Feng spoke. Even he was horrified. This was a dragon's life. I am going to die. The degeneration is the world's greatest inauspiciousness. Ever since I met you, this dragon has been constantly suffering from bad luck. Longdeyu had become a lump of flesh. He spoke with great difficulty. It was unknown whether he was resentful or sullen. He had already seen that Chowda didn't mean to harm him, but he was going to die. He was going to suffer great misfortune. Don't worry. I have life-saving great medicine here, Chu Feng said. No matter what, he was someone who had crossed the Soul River. He had divided great medicines from the Black Dog and the Bald Man. Perhaps it was more accurate to say that he had extorted them. He had the celestial immortal life extending flower on him. It was no joke. As long as he had a single breath left, he could be saved. However, before Chu Feng could take out the celestial flower, Longdeyu underwent an astonishing change. His body condensed and continued to shrink. Then, it blossomed with dazzling splendor. Following that, all of his tattered flesh began to scab and wrap him up into a ball, sealing him within. What did this look like? It was like a flesh cocoon, sparkling and glowing. Blood and qi steamed as intense transformations took place inside. Ah, what's wrong with me? Where are my arms and legs? Longdeyu screamed. At the same time, the flesh cocoon was still shrinking. In the end, it was only the size of a fist. What's condensed is the essence, Old Gu said. At this moment, he was not worried at all. There was no problem with the bloodline fruit. The problem was the strange dragon. His physique seemed to be extremely special. This time, he might have obtained great benefit. Otherwise, why would he be so intense? Chi Feng and the other two powerhouses also revealed strange expressions. They looked at the flesh cocoon in a daze. They also realized that this should be a blessing and not a curse. Then, they gradually became shocked. What kind of status did they have? Their eyes were like lightning. They could see through the flesh cocoon and some of the situation inside. Long Diyu's limbs disappeared. Was he transforming into a dragon? To be more precise, was he transforming from a winged sky dragon into a true dragon? Bang! The flesh cocoon shrank again and became even smaller. Moreover, it blossomed with a beam of light that soared into the sky. After a long time, Long Diyu broke out of the cocoon. His body had become so small that it was almost unrecognizable. I've become a true dragon? He was also doubtful. It seems like it, but why do I feel that something is wrong? Old Gu was puzzled. The three powerhouses were also stunned. They felt that something was wrong. At this time, Long Diyu was only the length of a finger. He was chubby and white. There were no horns on his head, and there were no scales on his body. Instead, he was stained with blood. His true body had not been completely revealed from the blood, but some clues could already be seen. Is he a true dragon? Qi Feng tried to identify. No. Chu Feng shook his head and then sighed. He looked like he could not bear to reveal the truth. What do you think I look like? Long Diyu asked. He was also looking down at himself. Maggot. Chu Feng told him directly. He said that it was better to get the pain over with. It was better to accept the reality as soon as possible. Maggot? Long Diyu screamed and looked down at himself. Then, his voice became more and more ear-piercing. He screamed endlessly. He naturally saw it too. Then, he began to doubt his life. How did he transform? How did I become a maggot? He hit his head hard. Maggot. Old Gu nodded. Qi Feng and the other two were dumbfounded. They did not know what to say. They just looked at their brother. I don't want to live anymore. Long Diyu jumped into the void with a whoosh. He moved quickly on the surface of the sea like lightning. It was too shocking. Diyu, calm down. Qi Feng advised. Calm down my ass. I've already become a maggot. I'm going to reincarnate. My life is over. Long Diyu howled at the sky in grief and indignation. You're not a maggot, Qi Feng said. The other two powerhouses also held back their laughter. They saw something at this time. Do you have any sympathy? Why are you still laughing? Long Diyu trembled. Then, he went crazy and howled. I evolved into a maggot? Cough, you only look like a maggot, but you're not one yet, Chu Feng said. In the end, it was old Gu who couldn't hold it in anymore. Silkworm. Long Diyu was completely stunned. He wasn't a maggot but a silkworm? How was this possible? He was a dragon. How did he transform into a worm? He was almost treated like a maggot. Yes, there should be divine silkworm blood flowing in your body, Qi Feng said. Then, he explained that in the prehistoric era, during Long Diyu's first life, he was seriously injured and on the verge of death. In the end, his body was covered in a cocoon and he was reborn. That time, any other creature would have died. There was no way they could have survived, but you did. The other powerhouse also spoke. Chu Feng spoke even more seriously. Don't look down on the silkworm race. They might be even stronger. Do you know that at the end of the Soul River, there is a supreme creature, the divine silkworm? It was once invincible. When Chu Feng spoke up to hear, he couldn't help but think of a question that made his hair stand on end. The Dog Emperor and the rotten corpse had picked up a blood-stained silkworm skin at the Soul River. It recorded one thing. The supreme divine silkworm at the end of the Soul River had a younger brother before it fell. That little silkworm was once a good friend of the Dog Emperor and the others. Back then, when they attacked the Soul River with celestial Dharch, they seemed to have seen its elder brother. In the end, no one knew where he went. In despair, it left behind the silkworm's skin to remind those who came after it. At this moment, Chu Feng seriously suspected Long Diyu's identity. Could it be that he was the descendant of that little silkworm? Or perhaps he was actually the little silkworm's original body. It was just that something went wrong and he ended up like this? Diyu, what's your background? Who are your parents? Chu Feng asked. Long Diyu's response was indeed strange. He didn't know who his parents were. When he woke up, he was a dragon, and he crawled out from some famed mountain. Chu Feng frowned. He couldn't confirm anything based on this. A little dragon like you could also hatch in a famed mountain. It is indeed strange, Old Gu said. Forget it. Let's not think about this for now. It's good that you're fine, Chu Feng said. What do you mean I'm fine? I'm still so small. Long Diyu was furious. Fortunately, he could transform into a human form. When he returned to human form, he didn't shrink much. There are silkworms in one of the Forbidden Lands. You might be related to them. You might even be related to that old silkworm in the Soul River, Chu Feng said slowly. Forget it. Let's not think about it. Long Diyu shook his head. In the end, Chu Feng went on his way. He rushed to the Zhou clan alone. Old Gu followed him from afar. The three powerhouses and Long Diyu waited by the coast. If something really happened, they would definitely be able to sense the energy fluctuations in the sea. After all, whether it was Chu Feng or Old Gu, they all had the battle prowess of a chaotic prime. The so-called chaotic prime was the strongest creature in some small worlds in the heavens. They were compatible with the Tao and were existences like the Lord of Realms. In the center of this inland sea, auspicious clouds and divine light soared into the sky. Immortal mountains rose from the sea. Beams of light lingered and white mist surged. Spiritual chi was so dense that it couldn't be dispersed. There were also many islands floating directly in the sky. They were sacred and transcendent. Jade palaces stood tall in the sky, flowing with immortal light. Golden palaces, bronze pagodas, and various other ancient buildings were also faintly discernible in the void from time to time. They floated above the clouds. The center of the sea was unpredictable. The creation chi was astonishingly dense. This is the Zhou clan. Chu Feng sighed. As expected of the sixth clan in the Yang realm. What he saw was definitely only the tip of the iceberg. This was the outermost area of their Tao arena. Even so, it was already very astonishing. This kind of place could provide for a few powerhouses to cultivate together. At the same time, he was sure that the Zhou clan definitely had an old ultimate expert overseeing it. Otherwise, it would be a shame for an invincible inheritance like the Sixth Orthodoxy. Of course, whether it was the Rotten Diyu or the old ultimate expert in a relatively better state, they shouldn't be in this Tao arena before him. Those creatures either used their physical bodies to suppress the source of the Zhou clan's creation or hid in a mysterious ancestral hall. They almost never showed themselves unless a major event like the extermination of a clan or the change of an era occurred. Therefore, Chu Feng wasn't worried at all that there was such a monster hiding in the dark for him. Although he was very strong now, it was far from enough in the eyes of those creatures. After arriving here, Chu Feng didn't dare to be careless. He stepped on the golden waves and looked at the celestial mountain and the floating island in the void. He cupped his fist. He didn't need to say anything. Someone had already discovered him. Who is it? On a celestial mountain in the sea, an old man with white hair and a youthful face opened his eyes. He was a celestial venerable, but he was only in charge of guarding the outermost mountain gate. Chu Feng was very polite and humble. He asked the old man to pass on a message that he was visiting an old friend. Who is it? Zhou Shi, please pass on a message that an old friend is here to visit the godlike girl, Chu Feng said. This could also be considered a secret signal. Back in the lesser underworld, Zhou Shi was quite mischievous and lively. At that time, she urged Chu Feng to cultivate and often said that the godlike girl was watching him from the sky. Oh, you know her? Yes. Chu Feng nodded. Zhou Shi had once said that her grandfather was the leader of the Zhou clan on the surface. It wasn't because of his great strength, but because the ancestors of their branch were extremely powerful. The old monsters didn't want to manage the clan and only cared about cultivation. Therefore, Zhou Shi's grandfather could only take over passively and only control the Zhou clan on the surface. Therefore, when Zhou Shi was mentioned here, the Zhou clan would definitely know about her. After all, she was the eldest daughter of the direct line. Wait a moment. The old man nodded. His lips moved and his soul light flickered. Apparently, he was sending a message to the depths of the celestial mountain. Before long, divine light shone and a holy aura flowed. Golden lotuses of the great Tao appeared in the void. Two old women walked over together. They were both very powerful and had terrifying auras. Girls she hadn't appeared yet, but two grand celestial venerables had arrived. Chu Feng was shocked. This was the power of the Zhou clan. It was difficult to see one grand celestial venerable in the outside world, but there were two in front of him. Up until now, Chu Feng hadn't come into contact with many grand celestial venerables. He had heard of one, the Dark Lion of a certain assassin organization in the underground world. The other one was the Yuan clan grand celestial venerable he had killed not long ago. The sixth clan in the Yang realm is indeed astonishing and unfathomable, Chu Feng muttered to himself. However, he was sure that even the Zhou clan couldn't have so many grand celestial venerables. As he saw it, having 3 or 4 was already the limit. He even suspected that only these 2 grand celestial venerables had come. Although he didn't see Girl Shi immediately, the Zhou clan had dispatched 2 grand celestial venerables. This showed that they attached enough importance to him. He just didn't know whether it was a good or bad thing. One of the old women was wearing a moon-white armor. She looked hale and hearty and was rather valiant and formidable looking. One could tell at a glance that she wasn't the kind of person who was soft and cunning. She was nodding with a smile as if she was very satisfied. She said, "Not bad. You're so young, yet you've actually reached this step. Even I can't see through you." She responded with kindness and smiled at Chu Feng. The old woman beside her was different. She wore a golden ornament in her hair and wore a bright red dress. She didn't look old at all and wore bright clothes. Her eyes were even more fierce. "You're Chu Feng. Hey, you're so young but so arrogant. I heard you've killed a few grand celestial venerables, so your killing intent isn't small. But remember, this is the Yang realm. Even though you're King Heng, you'll still get into trouble if you encounter the grand celestial venerables." Her tone was unkind as she looked at Chu Feng sternly. Chu Feng was baffled. The two people from the Zhou clan actually had completely different attitude. He had always been amenable to coaxing but not coercion. In the Yang realm, he didn't need to look at other people's faces. In the end, he still had to rely on himself to evolve, so there was no need for him to be popular. However, they were Girl Shi's elders after all. Moreover, one of them was very kind to him, so it wasn't good for him to refute them at their first meeting. However, while he was thinking this and listening quietly and modestly, the powerful and fierce old woman didn't stop and was still lecturing him. Even when the other old woman signaled for her to be quiet, she didn't care. The Yang realm is very big and there are countless experts. You'll suffer a great loss if you act like this. If you're not careful, you might be killed in the wild. Don't think you're very strong. In fact, it'll be difficult for you to escape death if any grand celestial venerables are dispatched. Chu Feng really didn't want to listen to her lecture. He felt that it was an undeserved calamity. This was the first time we met and there was no enmity between us, so why was she lecturing him like this? Of course, it wasn't good for him to reprimand her directly, so he said, "I'm all right. I've also seen grand celestial venerables, so protecting myself isn't a big problem." "Can you protect yourself if you encounter a grand celestial venerables?" The powerful old woman's gaze became more and more unkind. She felt that he was too insolent and overly vain, so her impression of him became even worse. "How will you protect yourself?" Her voice was much louder and emitted intense energy waves. Not long ago, I accidentally killed a grand celestial venerables." Chu Feng looked very low-key, but the battle achievements in his words were really not low-key at all. The old woman's gaze was like divine light and became increasingly fierce. However, before she could speak, someone in the white mist in the distance spoke first. Is that so? You can even kill a grand celestial venerables. Don't tell me that you can even fight against an almighty figure? You're really talking big. These words were a little heavy as she questioned Chu Feng. It shouldn't be a problem. Chu Feng nodded and wasn't afraid at all. Fighting against an almighty figure shouldn't be a problem? An unkind voice came from the white mist. That person felt that Chu Feng was too unreliable. It was better to show off and boast according to reality. He was really too frivolous and arrogant. Heh. And that old woman in a bright red dress laughed even more. It was a little ear-piercing and became even colder. Yes, there really isn't a problem. Chu Feng was simple and down-to-earth. At least, he felt that he was already very modest. He said, "Just before dawn, in the latter half of the night, I just killed an almighty figure. That's all." Chapter 15:19. This area suddenly became quiet, and only the golden waves were moving up and down. He just killed a third-step cultivator before daybreak. That's all. Someone whispered in the distance, repeating what Chu Feng had said. These words were like a celestial curse that echoed in everyone's ears. In particular, these words had a demonic quality to them. It was as if they wouldn't stop, and they echoed like thunder. Finally, someone couldn't bear it any more, such as the powerful old woman, the Grand Empyrean in the red dress. She let out a cold snort and her eyes were very cold. The people of the Zhou clan had always been very low-key. This was related to the teachings of their ancestors, so they didn't like arrogant people, especially those who had no strength but were arrogant. This powerful Grand Empyrean looked at Chu Feng with even more hostility. Living in this world, one should be respectful and humble. You won't live long like this. If this wasn't Zhou Shi's elder, Chu Feng would have stretched out his body and slapped her. If he could use force, he would never use his mouth. There was nothing more convincing than this. However, he hadn't even met Zhou Shi yet. If he beat up the Zhou clan's Grand Empyrean first, it would be too embarrassing. Humph, this old man hates arrogant people the most. You don't have the corresponding strength, yet you want to show off. This kind of vanity is the most shameful. The voice of an old man came from the fog in the sea. He was very dissatisfied and felt that this young man was too pompous and lacked substance. At this moment, even the white-armored Grand Empyrean, who was very satisfied with Chu Feng, revealed a helpless expression. He felt that this old friend of Zhou Shi's was a bit too much. In their view, no matter how powerful King Heng was, it would be very difficult for him to kill a Grand Empyrean, let alone kill a third-step cultivator. However, they didn't know that when Chu Feng killed a Grand Empyrean, he had 2 King Heng Dao fruit. Whether it was in ancient times or modern times, this was unimaginable. As for guessing that Chu Feng had evolved again and advanced once more, that seemed even more illusory. It was simply unrealistic and unrealistic. That was because they had already understood Chu Feng through Zhou Shi. This was a young man, and his rate of evolution could already be considered astonishing and rarely seen since ancient times. If he directly broke through to the Empyrean realm at this age, it would be strange. He would rot and die by himself. Therefore, the people of the Zhou clan still thought that he was King Heng Dao fruit. Now that he was so high profile and showed off his achievements, those who were prejudiced against him naturally didn't believe him. "I'm really..." Chu Feng was calm and unperturbed. There was nothing to hide. Moreover, he felt that he was being modest. He wasn't exaggerating. I ask you, how long have you been in the living world?" "Only 10 years or so. In such a short period of time, you can already look down on the world and look down on the Almighty?" Chu Feng was speechless. Just how much was he being looked down upon? His body began to emit strands of energy which gradually grew stronger. However, the sea region immediately sensed it. Runes soared up from the golden body like flames. It also seemed as if countless order runes were interweaving and causing the entire sea to tremble. Apparently, the Zhou clan had set up a shocking domain in the sea. As long as the energy level here was slightly higher, the entire region would be activated and give an early warning. That was why the Zhou clan would immediately sense it if a supreme expert were to appear and release energy or secretly cause trouble. Chu Feng sighed and didn't raise his energy level again. He didn't want to take the initiative to activate the Zhou clan's warning domain for fear of breaking it. The red-robed old woman, the powerful Grand Empyrean Zhou Yunling, revealed a surprised expression. She was somewhat suspicious. This youth was indeed very powerful. Although she hadn't seen him erupt with his full power, he had indeed surprised her just now. Did you really kill a Grand Empyrean? At this time, the white-armored old woman, the Grand Empyrean Zhou Yunxian, who was very kind to Chu Feng, couldn't help but ask. That was because she was indeed somewhat suspicious. Could it be that this youth's talent was even more terrifying than they had imagined? If he really had such an ability, then it would truly be terrifying. This kind of talent, this kind of age, and this kind of strength could definitely be considered world-shattering. No matter what, the Zhou clan should keep him. This was Zhou Yunxian's suspicion. That was why she asked cautiously and seriously while looking at Chu Feng. She was waiting for his serious reply and not some exaggerated bragging. I have. Just a few days ago, I killed a Grand Empyrean from an enemy orthodoxy. Yes, the supreme expert I killed just before daybreak was also from that clan. Chu Feng replied with a smile. He was very relaxed and didn't feel the slightest bit nervous or serious. That was because he really didn't feel that he had gone overboard. This was reality. However, some people in the Zhou clan felt that this wasn't serious enough. The white-armored Grand Empyrean Zhou Yunxian opened her mouth and wanted to say something. She somewhat believed that Chu Feng had the strength to kill a Grand Empyrean. She loved Zhou Shi very much. After hearing this descendant talk about Chu Feng in detail, she felt that his potential was boundless. However, in the eyes of some people, it was a bit unconvincing for him to say that he had killed a supreme expert. You should leave. Don't see Sheer anymore. At this time, in the depths of the celestial mountain in the sea, the old man who had spoken before said this. It was obvious that this was a supreme expert. Whether it was his status or age, he was even higher than the two Grand Empyreans outside. I want to see Zhou Shi. Chu Feng felt helpless. What was this? However, after thinking about it carefully, he understood. After all, he was special. Normally, no one at his age could kill a supreme expert. The old woman in red, Zhou Yunling, coldly said, My Zhou clan's ancestor was an invincible being who reached the peak of the universe. Although he was heaven-defying back then, according to the records, he never had such a terrifying battle record in his youth. The old woman in red, Zhou Yunling, spoke coldly. She also urged Chu Feng to leave. There was no need to see Zhou Shi. At this time, a young woman's voice came. Haha, so powerful. He can kill Grand Empyreans and Supreme Expert. He is even more powerful than my ancestor when he was young. Another young man said, Yes, heroes come from the youth. It's just that he is a bit too powerful. To be more precise, it's a bit exaggerated. Among the celestial mountains in the sea, many young men and women appeared. They were all elites of the Zhou clan and had come from the mountain. They happened to hear the conversation between Chu Feng and the Grand Empyreans and couldn't help but speak. What are you all talking about? Behave yourselves. An ethereal, fairy-like, elegant, and otherworldly woman appeared. Her beauty was astonishing and rare. She stood out from the crowd and could be said to be otherworldly. It was Zhou Shi. She had arrived. Chu Feng, you're here. Zhou Shi's kind and sweet voice came from the celestial mountains. She was as beautiful as if she had walked out of a painting. She was like a fairy descending to the mortal world as she quickly arrived. Many years had passed, but she hadn't changed much. Her face was still the same, her temperament was outstanding, and she was still as bright as ever. However, if one looked closely, they would see that she had grown a bit taller. After all, she was only a teenager when she arrived in the little Een realm. Now she was slender and elegant. Her figure was exceptionally tall and slender, graceful and elegant. She was incomparably stunning, like a blossoming celestial lotus. I had something to do and was delayed for so long to come see you, Chu Feng softly said as he gently looked at Zhou Xi. She hadn't changed much. After seeing him, she was sincerely happy and affectionate. She quickly approached. However, Zhou Yunling was very dissatisfied. Her bright red dress danced in the wind as she followed Zhou Xi closer. Her attitude towards Chu Feng wasn't good, and she didn't want the two of them to be too close. "You're not late. I've been waiting for you." Zhou Xi's smile was very sweet and bright, making the world exceptionally radiant. This caused some people from the Zhou clan to become even more dissatisfied. At this time, a young woman who had followed them over said in a low voice, "I've already said that although she is intelligent, she is too kind and ethereal like a fairy. She doesn't eat the food of the mortal world and trusts the people of the secular world too much. She is easily infected and deceived." "Damn you, are you slandering me? Do you think I'm a bad person?" Chu Feng wasn't happy. Couldn't they be a bit more tactful? They were saying bad things about him right in front of him. "We're guests from afar. Don't be so direct," a young man said. However, his words weren't that indirect either. Chu Feng was almost speechless. Did this group of people think he was a liar and a pompous person? Zhou Xi was a bit angry. She looked at her cousins with an unfriendly expression and said, "Don't talk like that, okay? He's my friend. We've gone through thick and thin together, through life and death together. You've gone too far." When they heard this, some people's expressions changed slightly. Grand Heavenly Sovereign Zhou Yunling's expression was even darker. A young woman couldn't help but say, "Zhou Xi, you should know that the elders of the clan are very open-minded and directly sent 2 Grand Heavenly Sovereigns to see him. This is a lot of pressure. After all, the big clans he has offended are all very terrifying. Our Zhou clan values him enough, but look at his performance, it's too bad." Zhou Xi was just about to speak when Chu Feng couldn't help but say, "How am I bad? Didn't I just say some truths?" At this time, one of Zhou Xi's cousins walked up to Chu Feng and patted him on the shoulder, saying, "Brother, you don't know much about our Zhou family. Some of the elders hate arrogant and conceited people with no corresponding strength. Even if they are talented, they are not worth nurturing. For so many years, the old antiques of our clan have followed the rules of our ancestors. What kind of geniuses haven't we seen? We've seen too many monsters who fell prematurely. In conclusion, only those with extraordinary temperaments, steady and low-key geniuses can go further." Chu Feng wanted to say that at least here, he was already very low-key, very steady, and didn't show off. Zhou Xi's cousin said, "If you said that you defeated Grand Heavenly Sovereigns, then that's about right. Who would have thought that you would be so excessive? You even dared to casually say that you killed a supreme being." Zhou Xi didn't like hearing this. She glared at her cousin and said, "What are you talking about? It's naturally not a problem for Chu Feng to defeat a Grand Heavenly Sovereign. Although he likes to brag, he never goes too far. Besides, what's wrong with saying it? If you don't act frivolously in your youth, then when will you? This is self-confidence. With goals and ideals, you can achieve them very quickly. Isn't it a little too unreasonable for you to be protecting him?" The group of young people was speechless. In fact, Chu Feng was also speechless. In the end, even Zhou Xi had a guilty conscience. She didn't think that he could kill a supreme being at the primordial chaos realm. After all, supreme beings were too terrifying. How could a young man kill them? "I really don't want to show off," Chu Feng said. He couldn't help it anymore. This group of young people were all direct descendants of the Zhou clan. Some were on good terms with Zhou Xi, while others didn't. Now that some people saw Chu Feng's appearance, they immediately despised him. Some people didn't like him, thinking that he was still unrepentant. Chu Feng didn't speak. His body glowed again, and the runes expanded, causing the sea to rapidly fluctuate. Can you really kill a Grand Sky Sovereign? Zhou Yunling was surprised. Her red dress fluttered in the wind. She took a step forward, wanting to see how strong Chu Feng really was. The Grand Sky Sovereign Zhou Yunxian, who had a good impression of Chu Feng, revealed a strange expression. She was a bit startled and even had some doubts and expectations. Could it be that everyone was wrong? Senior, you should stay back. I'm afraid of colliding with you. Chu Feng looked at Zhou Yunling, who wanted to test him. At this time, Chu Feng himself was retreating and had Zhou Shi hide in the Immortal Mountain. The energy runes on his body continued to rise, becoming stronger and stronger. Even if he damaged the Zhou clan's mountain gate, they probably wouldn't be angry. This couldn't be blamed on him. Oh, you are very strong, but even I can't get close to you? Zhou Yunling was cold. She really felt that this young man was boasting shamelessly. Even if this Chu Feng could fight against a Grand Sky Sovereign, could he really hurt her? Rumble. However, the next moment, her expression changed. There were countless energy runes in the sea, and they were all activated. The sea shook violently and golden waves shot into the sky. Not only her, but even Zhou Yunxian and the powerhouse in the Immortal Mountain were shocked. How was this possible? This young man's energy level was too high. It didn't match his status and age at all. The void around him was collapsing and distorting, and the sea under his feet was boiling. Crack! In the sea, the original warning domain was collapsing. Many order runes had been forced out and were broken in an instant. Rumble! Great waves surged in tens of thousands of layers, rushing into the heavens, scattering all of the clouds in the sky. The entire sky dome was shaking, trembling, terrifying black cracks appearing. Senior, you should stay back, Chu Feng said calmly as he looked at Zhou Yunling. Zhou Yunling's red dress fluttered violently. She couldn't even stand steadily in this powerful aura. She found it hard to believe that this young man was actually so powerful. She didn't believe it. As a Grand Sky Sovereign, how could she not withstand the energy released by this young man? One had to know that the other party hadn't even made a move yet. She suddenly took a large step forward and approached Chu Feng. She was determined to measure just how powerful he was. This was a bit impulsive, and it was clear that the old woman was quite unyielding. However, this young man was like a peerless demon king. The space around him was distorted and constantly collapsing. His energy level was shockingly high. With a bang, the old woman was blasted away by a resplendent rune. She was almost sent flying. In the end, she staggered back and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. What kind of power was this? It was too tyrannical. She was shocked. At this time, Chu Feng didn't hide anything. He could see that the Zhou family didn't have any deep malice towards him. They only loathed him for being too arrogant and overestimating himself. What was there to be low-key about now? Why would he need to hide anything? He released the most powerful energy to his heart's content and displayed his Tao fruit that was close to the eternal revered level. In this domain, no one at the Empyrean level could defeat him. What Grand Sky Sovereign? If they really wanted to fight against Chu Feng at full strength, they wouldn't be a match at all. Thus, when the old woman stepped into his human king domain, she was blasted back. At this time, he was impervious to all technique. If a creature at the same level dared to approach him, they would naturally be injured. Gotcha! In the distance, the Zhou clan's mountain gate was shining. Cracks appeared on it, triggering a huge rumble that alarmed many people. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. More than a dozen elders appeared. If they weren't Empyreans, then they were supreme existences. They were all greatly shaken as they stared at the young man in the golden sea. One of Zhou Shi's cousins cried out, Damn! What he said is all true. He isn't bragging or exaggerating. He can fight a Grand Sky Sovereign? No, he said he killed one before. Within the mountain gate, Zhou cousins were incomparably shocked. How old is he? He actually sent our clan's Grand Sky Sovereign flying with blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. What kind of monster is this? The group of youngsters were all dumbfounded. They couldn't believe their eyes. Even the girls who were competing with Zhou were greatly shocked. What kind of evildoer was this? What kind of monster was this? He was even more powerful than the Zhou clan's ancestors when they were young. Brother, you're really overflowing with arrogance. You were too low-key before. One of Zhou's cousins said excitedly. More than a dozen elders of the Zhou clan appeared. They were all experts, and some of them were even supreme existences. Among them was the supreme existence that had been hiding in the clouds and berated Chu Feng for leaving. At this time, he was also greatly shaken. Moreover, he instantly thought of something. Could it be that this young man's words about killing supreme existences weren't empty words? He turned into a bolt of lightning. With a loud rumble, the void exploded. Energy runes were like smoke and clouds. They were incomparably terrifying, causing a huge mushroom cloud to rise in the sea. He personally took action to size up Chu Feng. The supreme existence's attack resulted in heaven and earth irregular phenomena. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Countless black void cracks extended into the heavens. Chu Feng stood in place without moving. When he saw the elder rushing over, he directly raised an arm and smashed over with a fist. Meanwhile, his feet were still nailed to the ground. Hong Long. Between heaven and earth, dazzling light erupted. It was as if a large number of suns had fallen and exploded, drowning out this place. Fortunately, there were enough experts here. There was no lack of supreme existences. Many people quickly took action to suppress this place to prevent the mountain gate from collapsing and the innocents in the sea being harmed. Delightful! The supreme existence that rushed towards Chu Feng was extremely excited. He was laughing heartily. Now, he was convinced that this youth hadn't lied from start to finish. It could even be said that this youth was too low-key. He was like a bolt of lightning as he rapidly collided with Chu Feng. They exchanged intense blows. However, he quickly released a muffled groan because Chu Feng had moved. His entire body was erupting with special runes. His battle prowess overflowed into the heavens as he blasted him flying. Then, Chu Feng stopped where he was and no longer moved. He was extremely calm, like a towering demonic mountain. The Zhou clan's supreme existence trembled all over. He was sent flying by the light released by Chu Feng's invincible fist imprint. With a putong sound, he smashed into the golden sea, causing sky-high waves to surge. How is this possible? The Zhou clan's youths cried out in alarm. Regardless of whether it was the men or the beautiful women, their expressions all changed. Even a supreme existence wasn't this youth's opponent? Some young men and women looked towards Zhou. They were all direct descendants of the Zhou clan, and they had a competitive relationship. But now, some people were trembling. Zhou had just casually gone out and she had already encountered such a monster? This was too inconceivable, too shocking. This, not to mention the younger generation, even the group of old fellows, the Zhou clan's famous elders, and those heavenly venerables and supreme existences were shocked. Their scalps went numb. What kind of monster was this? Today, they were indescribably shaken. It was as if they were in a dream. Open the main gate and invite Zhou's friends inside. The most unyielding Grand Empyrean, who didn't have a good impression of Chu Feng, Zhou Yunling, spoke. Her attitude had completely changed. She knew that she had wrongly accused Chu Feng before. Open the main gate of the Zhou clan? Damn, how many years has it been since something like this happened? One of Zhou's cousins was stunned. Then, he rushed over and grabbed Chu Feng. He seemed to be filled with endless emotions as he said, "Even I haven't passed through that gate. It has always been sealed." Then, he sighed. Brother, you were too low-key at the beginning. However, this is also the best way to show off. You did this on purpose, right? At this time, several young girls looked at Zhou Shi with envy and jealousy. But after all, they were related by blood. They all walked up to her and whispered to her, rapidly improving their relationship. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.